the Grand Forks County Commission meeting to order for August 5th, 2025. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Nation, God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
So move second.
We got a first and a second right out of the gate. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Approval of order of agenda. Yep. Very good. Is everybody
What was that again?
to switch 6 and 7?
Okay. That, I have a question, is, anyone, Mr. Ford, or Ms. Lee, is anyone on the, video phone, whatever, from the state concerning the DOCR?
There was going to be an individual, Commissioner Bierke, that was going to appear via Zoom.
Okay.
And that's an item that will have to be added. And they had requested, they being DOCR, requested towards the back end.
Okay, I would like to request that that be added to, and make it item number 13F.
So,
I want to make sure we can ask some questions, otherwise the kind of splits.
very good. We have moved 6 and 7 to the meeting separately.
I'll move both, 6 and 7 flip, and
Yep.
and the DCR to 13F.
Okay. The motion.
Second.
Okay, I'm sorry. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Approval of consent agenda, bills, employee status changes, and overtime.
I'll move approval, Madam Chair, of the consent agenda.
Second.
Second.
Sorry. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Motion passes. Okay, and then we do.
I'm here today requesting a reappointment of Maya Lundy to the Grand Forks County Human Services Zone Board. Ms. Lundy's term with us expired the end of July, so we respectfully ask for her to be reappointed. She has expressed a desire to continue to serve on our board, and it is the belief, my belief, that she brings really the expertise in her field, the skill set to the board that is necessary to make sure that we have a well-rounded board that can serve the people.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Citizen comments. And I think all of these comments, I understand from these forms, are items that are on the agenda today. So when we get to the, unless,
No, ma'am, there was the preliminary budget and the Gorman Field.
very good. So when we get to those two topics, I'll call for those folks to come in to the podium and speak to us, but keep on moving on. So Gorman Field is actually here. Start with Mr. Tony Nelson.
Well, thank you for your time. I don't have a political agenda. I'm not gonna talk about zoning. I have a real personal connection to this piece of land because I've lived there pretty much my whole life, 50-some years. I grew up there. I farmed the land with my dad when I was younger. Planted it in the CRP. He taught me how to hunt there. Taught me how to hunt doves right where the Gorman Field facility that exists now is, in that exact spot. I'm the owner and operator of Wellsburg Kennels Dog Training, which I do in that area and from my home, which is on that section. I'm the only human that lives on that section. And I say human because there's a lot of other things that live in that area. There's a lot of deer, there's a lot of rabbits, there's grouse that we haven't seen these numbers in many years. But those are starting to dissipate because the grass is coming out there. Adjacent quarter across County Road 6. 3 to 4 coveys of grouse that were there the last 10 to 15 years is down to maybe 1 or 2. The partridge, same thing, 3 to 4 coveys are down to 1 or 2. I have a personal spot there. There's a grove of trees. In that grove of trees, there's a tree, and that tree has a ladder stand on it. And I've spent a lot of the last 30 years sitting in that tree. Whether I see a deer or get a deer, that doesn't matter. It's the other things that I see. Families of raccoons, fishers, in wet years, wood ducks, pair and nest there. And nest in my yard, which is about 3/4 of a mile away. Again, my dogs, I've trained my dogs there. Used to plant them where the building is now. Park my pickup where the sign is by the highway. And that's fine. I've learned to work around that. Went across the road where I also trained, and that's a gravel pit now, and farmland can't train there anymore either. A lot of people look at that little piece of land and think, oh, it's marginal farmland at best, but it isn't the best farmland. I still help combine it in the fall for the people who farm it now. The grove of trees, some of them are falling down. It's maybe an aged grove of cottonwoods. But what people don't see is that those trees that have fallen have opened up for sunlight, for undergrowth to come up and create better habitat for all kinds of wildlife. More wildlife there now than there was when I was a kid, which isn't what you can say about a lot of places. As a kid, the gravel pit right across the section line, used to camp there, get a rabbit and maybe a partridge out of the CRP. Anything we could stick on a stick and cook on a fire, that's what we did when we were kids. And a lot of that stuff is starting to disappear. The bigger tracts of grass and land are disappearing, and these little fringe covers and habitat are what we have to look at now to maybe supplement some of those other places. And this proposal to put in basically a full-fledged airport in a place that really takes care of a lot of things in that ecosystem in that small area. It would just destroy it. It would be a place that I wouldn't be able to go to anymore. Like I said, I've been going there since I'd walk to my front door 3/4 of a mile with my dog and my shotgun over my shoulder. Whether I brought anything home or not, it was a day out there. Sitting in my tree, I can hear the bass when they play the national anthem at 5 o'clock on a cool night. It's crisp. And I love that we have military presence, and I know that technology isn't going anywhere, but I also live where I live. So I'm far enough away that I can hear it and appreciate it, but I don't have to live right next to it. I think I can speak a little bit for my neighbor Jeremy Wiegand, who's here. He just bought a farm on the adjacent section, in the middle of the section, because that's where he wanted to be. It was away from the roads and the bustle and whatever. That's why we live where we live. He's bringing up a family there that just built a new house. And someday when I can't climb that tree, I hope maybe his kids could climb that tree and see what I've seen in the last 50 years, what my dad had taught me there. It's very personal to me. It's where I live. It's where I grew up. I think it would be a shame to lose it. Again, I get technology is going to keep moving forward, but at what cost? How far do we go? I've lived where I've lived as long as I have, and in the last 5 years, I've lost 3/4 of the places that I used to call places that I would visit every day. And now some of them are gone, and might lose another one. He lives a stone's throw from what might be a full airport with his kids now. And he said, well, it's almost 3/4 of a mile. I play a little college ball. A couple stone throws from his house, there's going to be an airport. And that airport and runway would be 50 yards from where I sit once in a while. I just enjoy life the way I like to enjoy it. The way my dogs like to enjoy it. And my neighbors like to enjoy it. Again, don't have an agenda. I'm not going to make this into a PDS, save the wildlife thing. It's not the Pelican brief. Just wanted to let you know that there's people that care about that land, and probably nobody more than me. I know that section better than anybody in the world. I don't think anybody here that knows me would argue that. I know where every deer trail is, where every fallen tree is. I've fallen in every badger hole and coyote hole, I can tell you that, my back will attest to that. So, thank you for your time, and I hope smarter minds will prevail. Thank you.
I live at 2371 10th Avenue Northeast, Amaretto. That's in Fairfield Township, 2 miles south and slightly east of Gorman Field. First, this is a question, and although I know you're not required to answer it, what type of meeting is this? We received a notice of hearing from zoning and planning, but I did not see a notice of hearing listed in the Grand Forks Herald, nor is the agenda item listed as a hearing. Second, I've been looking for a copy of the original application from either 2021 or 2022 for Gorman Field, and also for the original conditional use permit from that same time. I was unable to find them online, and I'm afraid I did not leave enough time for my request for those documents to be fulfilled when I contacted the county yesterday. The minutes from zoning and planning also eluded me, so I'll have to go by what I remember from that original hearing. The original application for Gorman Field, as remembered, was by Chuck Pino for UND Aerospace Foundation. It was for a small building and a pad for launching drones and teaching students. I personally don't consider what is built at Gorman Field as a small building. Is it the largest building in the township? Probably pretty close. There was no runway listed on the original application. And if a grass runway was built, it was built without a permit from the county. Third, I'd like to address communication with local residents. We received a notice of this hearing because we own a partial kitty corner across County Road B6 from Gorman Field. At the county commission meeting on July 15th, Harley League asked the county to notify residents within 3 miles of the facility about today's meeting. This was changed at a special meeting in late July to 1 mile. The northwest Fairfield Township and the southwest part of Oakville Township are fairly densely populated, with 6 residences within a mile and at least 24 within 3 miles of Gorman Field. That does not include any residences west of B3 in Chester or Pleasant View Township. Finally, I'm the zoning administrator for Fairfield Township, which is zoned separately from Grand Forks County. I contacted our 3 supervisors, and neither they nor myself received any information on Gorman Field conditional use permit applications. The residents of Fairfield Township, and there are 12 within a 3-mile radius of Gorman Field, should have been consulted. These residents, because of airspace restrictions, are the people who hear the engines for hours at a time. But the people who see the drones out their windows at night, they should be listened to. Thank you.
I forgot to add at the beginning of this, we do have a 5, everyone's done really good to stay under the 5 minutes, but I just wanted to remind everybody that there is a 5 minute. Todd, please.
I assume we're on agenda item 8, comments.
Yes, we're still on, is that what you?
Well, I would want to comment during the agenda item, but maybe that this is the time for,
Yep, right at the week before we get into the.
so we kind of change the way we do.
I don't think we did. We've
Well, I mean,
always done it.
Usually we commented during an agenda item, but whatever. I asked patience from you, but I prepared somewhat of a lengthy thing. So I'm trying to provide the council or the commission here with information that's pertinent to Gorman Field and its application. So I prepared comments, and I got materials that I'm referring to in my comments available for all the commissioners and administrator. And perhaps you can follow along, but I'll just go along with what I got here. It says, I'm Todd Leak, and I farm and I reside at 2371 10th Avenue Northeast, Amarillo, North Dakota. I'm a pilot and a 1983 graduate of UND Aviation, now UND Aerospace, the Bachelor of Science degree in Aviation. As an alum, I want UND Aerospace and drone program to be successful. That said, I believe that the location that UND Aerospace Foundation has selected for a drone airport is ill-advised, and I oppose it. Not simply because UND's flight operation and practice areas above my farmstead and farmland, or for other reasons I will discuss. The matter before the commission is a request by UND Aerospace Foundation to amend its special use permit to build an airport in Oakville Township in section 31. And that's on page 1 of the handout. They have a titled planning report. This is with a 2,500 foot by 50 foot paved runway, and that's on page 2. This is also stated in the February 19th, 2025 letter from Chuck Pino, the CEO of UND Aerospace Foundation, requesting to build a UAS airport and a 2,500 foot runway. That's on page 3 in the handout. And their accompanying documents and diagram. Page 6 shows an aerial view of Gorman Field, and the blue area to the south of the building is a mowed grass area of 400 feet by 25 feet that does not constitute a grass airstrip. And that's what I was told and looked at and told by the Bismarck Airport's office of the FAA. So what we're doing is we're looking at an airport here. Just put that down because a lot of discussion in the last meeting was about strips and paving and grass runways. This is an application for an airport. So to construct an airport or a runway, a person must apply to do so with the Federal Aviation Administration. Referring now to the handout called Code of Federal Regulations. Part 157, Title 14. So if we look at the front of that, we have Regulation 157.1, and that's applicability. That refers to the use of an airport. From everything that's been presented to the commission, the operations conducted and planned would constitute applicability according to the FAA Airports Office that enforces these regulations. 157.2 is a definition of terms, and that defines what an airport is. The definition of airport means an airport or other aircraft landing or takeoff area. UAS are aircraft. The FAA considers UAS to be aircraft that fall within the statutory and regulatory definitions of aircraft, and that they are devices that are intended to be used for flight in the air. That's in Title 14, Part 107. So we've got an airport, and the definition of airports takeoff, landing for aircraft. These are aircraft. In 157.3, if you flip over the page, since A and B refer to the construction of airports and runway requiring notification to the FAA. So it's to construct projects requiring notice to construct or otherwise establish a new airport or activate an airport, or to construct, realign, alter, activate any runway or aircraft landing or takeoff area at an airport. So it's all fallen within the jurisdiction of these regulations. So part 157.5 is a notice of intent. And that requires persons who are building an airport or runway to submit to the FAA Airport District Field Office, in this case Bismarck, we'll refer it back to Minneapolis, Form 7480-1. And that is the form that UND Aerospace would have to have initiated with the FAA to construct an airport or a runway. I did contact the FAA on this. There is nothing in the database. So UND has not UND Aerospace Foundation has not contacted the FAA yet. And says, so anyway, they have to do that, start the process. Otherwise, it won't go anywhere. That's just the law. And it makes sense. I mean, if you're going to build an airport, you got to contact the FAA. So then there's a matter of the 1,500-foot grass runway that Mr. Sandy referred to at the July 15th Grand Forks County Commission meeting as existing. When answering the question put to him by Commissioner Peach, Mr. Swanson also referred to an existing grass runway at that July 15th meeting. No 1,500-foot grass runway exists. No runway exists out there, to be paved or otherwise. The FAA Airports Office has no record of a filing of notice or intent or a determination that would have allowed such a runway to have been built. Being no grass runway exists at Gorman Field, there's apparently no violation of the FAA because there's nothing there. So they never did it. They never put an intent in, which they was required by law. And they know what they're doing at UND Aerospace with federal aviation regulations. So that's why there's nothing on file and there's no runway there anyway.
Mr. Lee, I'll let you finish up with the next comment, but be fair to everybody with the 5 minutes.
Yeah, I know,
you've done a lot of
this
good
is
work.
very
I
important.
understand. You gotta
Okay.
give everybody the same amount of time.
Yeah. So FAA 157.7 is the determination. And in this section of the process, the FAA will conduct an aeronautical study of an airport proposal. It will consider the effects of the proposed airport would have on existing or contemplated air traffic patterns in neighboring airports and the existing airspace infrastructure. So they will do a aeronautical study to see if this is going to interfere with the base, Grand Forks International. And they have to make that determination before anybody can build anything. So that usually takes 45 to 65 days. And the FAA will issue a conditional or an objectionable determination. A conditional determination will identify objectionable aspects and identify the conditions that must be met and sustained to preclude an objectionable determination. In other words, they could get a conditional and they can fix it, or they'll just have an objectionable and they can't do it. Can't build this airport. So the neighboring airports are, of course, Grand Forks Air Force Base. We have a National Defense Airspace temporary flight restriction area out there. That's not temporary, it's renewed 6 months, it's renewed every 6 months. It's going to be renewed every 6 months. That's a no-fly zone. That's a 12-mile diameter thing up to the west of V3, west of the base, over to Laramore. And there's another aspect of this proposal I think the commission should weigh. At the July 15th commission meeting, Mr. Sandy said of the Air Force that they can ground our operation at any time they want, no explanation. And that they can ground us infinitum, forever. Mr. Swanson added that Mr. Sandy's comment about the Air Force having the ultimate control is accurate. Not only does the Air Force have authority to terminate flight operations on a long or short-term basis, and given that authority, why would UND Aerospace or anyone want to locate an airport at Gorman Field? It could be shut down. An airport is a big investment and a commitment to work efficiently with an air control and airspace system. The airspace is already very crowded, and Mr. Sandy said he wants to bring more companies in to grow. That airspace would only get more congested. The FAA office told me that they want wise planning, taking into account future growth of airport and physical components and likely changes to airspace and air traffic. So I said it on the onset, my last paragraph, as I said on the onset, I want UND Aerospace and their drone program to succeed. The biggest investment in Gorman Field is by far the proposed airport yet to be built. For future expansion and increased air activity, I think that the UND Aerospace Foundation should consider a different site for the airport that would be away from the crowded airspace in an area that would give them a 360-degree airspace for their operations. A better chance to get therefore a better chance to get a favorable determination from the FAA. I talked with UND ground crews around my farm that expressed frustration at the tight airspace that they work with. Land is available locally. For example, I have talked with the owner of the former Hatton Private Airport that is for sale, 20 miles south from Grand Forks Air Force Base on good state highways. With one facility or two facilities, I'm sure that UND Aerospace can handle it, and that would be good for their future development. So I oppose the application to amend the UND Aerospace permit for UAS Airport at Gorman Field. Thank you for your patience with me. I hope that the information I presented here is helpful.
Harley?
I think you're hearing enough. I'll pass.
Never turn down an opportunity to talk, and you know that, but at this time, I know there's others that can speak, so I'll allow that, and I'll
I
pass.
think that was, you were the last one
Oh,
to
was I?
point. So if you do want the opportunity to say anything else, I'll give that to you, but if not, we'll move on.
Well, I'm sorry.
Take your turn.
Right, thank you. No, we had a lot of discussion in over coffee and donuts out at the farms. And, there are a lot of people that are busy with farm work right now, but it really does impact Fairfield far greater, I think, than Oakville, because they all have to go south over us, and none of us were notified. So it was word of mouth. And, I think you probably had some emails pertaining to this. So I would just like you to take into account, there have been some things here that have happened that maybe aren't following protocol. And I also want you to take into account the type of lives that people live in this area. And I think that is pertinent, that we do not need, and we're sold at the onset a totally different perspective of what this area was going to be. So I think UND should be a good neighbor and look for some other place, especially because of the confined airspace that is available there. There's nothing in Oakville. They can't go north, they can't go. Carly, help me. Anyway, directionally I get lost in paper bed. But there is no place for them to go. It's very hard to maneuver, which was mentioned. So I think it would be better for their operation to go to someplace that would provide a better situation. Also looking at them and their future. And I heard this outside, Tony Nelson mentioned it. He said the drones are, when he's out training his dogs, the drones are hovering right above him. He didn't bring this up. And it's distracting for an individual to have a drone that you could reach up and touch, let alone trying to train dogs. We have the young family he was referring to. They have a horse farm. I'm taking my granddaughters there for lessons on Thursday evening. This is going to be very, very difficult to train, have horseback riding lessons. They're just, what are you, a half mile back? Right. Okay, so this is invasive to many different operations, business-wise and family-wise. And my husband and I have noticed, they are hovering and going up and down and up and down. One night I looked out and now I might be wrong, but I swear I counted at least 9, 10. And I'm sure they're doing ground maneuvers, but also they're hovering over our farms. And there's people on every corner, and the farmers we kind of protect each other. We look out for each other. And so everybody goes, did you see that pickup? Do you know that person? And so we stop and we talk and ask them, and we found out that they have to be there on our corners, which will be a problem come harvest. We've got equipment that is going to be moving down those roads. And if you're going to have people all over on our county roads, I just thought of that, could be a problem. But it's very invasive. And if you were living out there, I don't know how you'd feel if what Mr. Sandy says, that they're going to project all of this future development with And you heard them list them, the number of companies. I wish them well. But this is not a practical place to be doing it. And I hope the commission will back us on that. Thank you.
I had to talk.
So. So we have anybody here from the-
I almost hate to tell you my name, after all that, but I'm Chuck Piniel with the Aerospace Foundation. And we are the owners of the property that you're discussing. And I guess, first of all, I'd like to try to assure the commissioners and all of the residents here that we try to be a good neighbor, first and foremost. You know, Jared still farms the part of the land that we don't use. We don't charge him anything. We don't do anything. We put in the county road to get there to the specs that they required. We do everything that we've done. Anyone that's come to visit with us, we've toured them, tried to show them what we're doing if they're curious. Sheriff Schneider, we are certainly law abiding. We are not breaking any regulations, laws, or anything. And so first and foremost, I think that's what's important for everyone to understand. There's a lot of misconception going on with everyone, so I thought I'd take a couple minutes just to hit some of the highlights and then try to answer questions for you all that you have. It is not an airport. It is being referenced as that, and it's not, as certainly Todd pointed out. It's not an airport. It's not deemed by the FAA. We're not landing airplanes there. It's not a runway. What we're asking today is to convert grass to a hard surface. Nothing of the size of an airplane or weight of an airplane could land or take off there. You don't put it on a FAA chart, any of that. The things that are going to be going on and off that area are the same things that are currently going on and off that area today. They weigh, under 300 pounds for sure. Most of them probably under 100 pounds. What you're seeing, Mona, I'm sorry, I don't remember your whole name, but what you're describing is ag-related drones that have nothing to do with us, that are hovering and going up and down and doing things for the farmers. We don't fly anything like that out there. Anything you've seen at night, we haven't even done, to my knowledge, one night operation at Gorman Field at all. I'm not saying we would never do that, but we have not to this. So what you're seeing is not us. You might be seeing drones, you might be seeing airplanes, you might be seeing whatever you're seeing, but I assure you it's not coming from Gorman Field. Just trying to hit some of the other things you mentioned. Noise. I've been out there and got trained in as a visual observer to track these things. I can hardly keep my eye on it without binoculars. You can't see them even when they're 600 feet. They're not very big. You can't really hear them because the engines are tiny. Once they're up in the air right over top of our building, you can't. I mean, if it's dead calm, you could hear it. But once it gets even higher than 600 feet, you can't hear it. So you may be hearing something, and if it's us, we certainly apologize. We're not trying to be noisy. But most of the things operate there do not carry any kind of noise level. As far as the base and things like that, we coordinate with everyone. I mean, most of you in the room would know somewhat about UND Aerospace. We're a world-renowned entity in aviation. And an unmanned is one thing. But we are certainly not going to violate any regulations with anybody on anything. That would cripple our entire reputation and our operation for everything. So there is nothing, I don't want to get into the details of things that were being said, but we are not violating any regulations on anything. Some of the other things that were mentioned, I don't know, it's definitely not an actual airport for airplanes as maybe was sort of misconstrued by Todd displaying some of that. Again, the request today is to convert some grass. There was an aerodrome runway in the original proposal. It was grass. It was bigger than this, but whatever. We've consulted with the UAS test site, and the Northern Plains UAS test site was established by the FAA to help integrate unmanned aircraft into the national airspace. So we have a letter of full support from them, which is the closest regulatory entity in this area that I thought might be relevant. So I do have a letter from them. Just if anyone, I think I overheard Terry, Mr. Gerke on the last meeting I was on Zoom, that you said, this isn't our job to do the FAA stuff and it's hard to know. So I did that, and I got letters from appropriate folks from the North Dakota State Aeronautics Commission, which represents the state in aviation-related matters. I have letters from them. From the U.S. test site that represents the FAA in this area. Vantis, we recently signed an MOU with the radar, because I know at some point people were talking about the radar. The radar was approved by the Air Force Base. They assigned the frequency to us, and so did the FCC. And we signed an MOU with Vantis, which is the state entity that's integrating that into the state system. Just so that there's no concerns on anything with that, which we didn't have to do, but we did because we don't want anyone thinking there's anything inappropriate going on. You know, we sent, I think last week, a copy of some of the articles. Everyone from the Army National Guard, the actual Air Force, and the Air Force National Guard have been operating there this summer in conjunction with the university and others. I think it's been a nice addition to the US ecosystem that the county has started with Grand Sky and other things that you're doing. I hope that we're being a good steward of the land. We've let I don't remember, it was Tony that mentioned, I don't know if it's the same deer stand you're referencing to that's on our land, but we've let young kids still hunt off that tree stand that was there when we acquired the land. I didn't know if you were, but sure, you know, we've not done anything that way to try to hamper any use of the land, even from the farmers to the kids hunting to everything else that's going on there. I guess I'd rather now answer any questions you all have. I hope I addressed sort of the things I've heard.
I went out there on whatever day it was.
I wrote there. I
Yes,
appreciate
so-
that you took the time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You bet. So I went out there, I talked to James.
Oh, yeah.
And so he told me, and you can verify this, they have a map of all the houses. And they attempt to avoid the houses because they have a map and they know where they're at. He told me, you mentioned no, he said night flight would be a rare, maybe some type of first responder training type thing, and there's a designated area that they would do it in, not around people's, houses and stuff. I saw the drone, you showed me the catapult, and the catcher, and the vertical takeoff and stuff. I just want to address the radar too, because I've had people calling about the radar. You mentioned that the base is signed off on the radar.
Well, they assigned the frequency to be used from the beginning. To detect the manufacturer had to get all that approvals and
Right.
stuff.
So hopefully you can stick a fork in that one, because I still get phone calls on that on a regular basis. So I do have a copy of the media report where a leadership person from the base was praising Grand Sky. I mean, Gorman Field and what they're doing out there. So I'm getting mixed message from there. And it's extremely difficult to make decisions when, frankly, I'd like to get a bunch of people in a room and no one's leaving until we get it settled. But so I'm getting mixed message on this about what people want or don't want. If this runway is built, does the FAA get involved in any way, shape, or form?
No, they have nothing to do with it.
Okay, so they do control the air though.
Of course.
So because I understand, I'm a big on property rights, and I hear what you're saying, but also I think government at all level goes way over the line of takings that they get away with. I'm all about your property, other than you're building a nuclear bomb or something. It's pretty much, I want to leave them alone. So I get the comments, but I also get they bought the property. So it's a fine line there. If the FAA is not going to be involved, the only recourse is if people disagree, because we have nothing to do with the air. And another one of my things is I like to stay in my lane. Too many people get out of their lanes. And so I want to stay in my lane. As a county commissioner, I can do nothing about what's in the air. Nothing. And so I'm not going to speak for the other four, but I'm not going to try and tell someone what's going on in the air if I don't have to do it, because to be blunt, it's stupid. I can't control it. So if there's an issue with drones in the air in your property, I would assume the correct place to call is the FAA and file a formal complaint and just keep calling if you have an issue till they get somebody out here and let them decide what's going on. It's not my lane, and it's unfair to put it in my lane because I can't do anything about it. And frankly, I think potentially we're setting up for us to be in the wrong end of a lawsuit if we're making decisions on, I'll say, emotions as opposed to facts. which is, well, it's everything, it's what's back. So I've struggled long and hard on this. I flip-flop, I fish out of water on this, trying to come up with the right decision. So I don't come to this easily, but if it's true, the FAA has nothing to do with the runway, and we have nothing to say about the air, how can I not say yes? Because it's their property, they want to develop it, and if there's a drone issue, whoever it is, and I know tons of farmers using drones now, spraying for weeds, doing all sorts of stuff, and then it's got to be the FAA is the place to go, and file complaints and force them to send someone out here to get the facts to present it. So I'm sure I'm making everyone unhappy, but sometimes that's what happens. So originally I was a hard no. Now is I've just come to the conclusion I don't think I have a right to stop them from developing their land. And the recourse is to file your complaints. Call them every day. If you're having that problem, call them every day and twice a day if you have to, and force them to address the issue. Telling me to do something about it, I don't think is appropriate. It's not something I can do, and I'm not going to put myself in a position where I'm pretending to be junior FAA guy, because it's not my job. My job is they filed the permits. I can't find a reason to stop why. I had Mr. Magnuson contact the airport director yesterday. He's not here, so I'm assuming everything's okay. And so I don't know what more I can do. I've looked at all sides. Like I said, I've probably spent more on this than anything I've done since I got on the commission. It's this issue. And so I'm at the point now, I'm ready to prove and go to the FAA, because I don't know what else I can do. Because I'm not going to deny them their land use because of something that's in the air that I can't.
Well, I'm gonna add something because there's some confusion with what you had just said. I spoke with the wing commander today. I talked to him a couple times about this. And we currently have a study that's going, I don't know if you want to expand on what this study is. You want to do that right now? And
Yeah, Madam Chair, Commissioners, Chair Ains referring to the compatible use program, which is a DoD funded program, which is something the county was encouraged to do. But once we receive funding, what this will accomplish is looking at land encroachment, airspace encroachment, and frequency spectrum encroachment. And the goal and the predicted outcome of the study will essentially be to help the commission shape planning and zoning policy and requirements within a certain radius of Grand Forks Air Force Base. So it could come back and say, we recommend the commission allow no development whatsoever within a 15-mile radius of Grand Forks Air Force Base. And then the military impact zone bill that was passed, that's what allows you to set that policy. So land, airspace, and frequency spectrum.
so from his perspective, he wants to be part of the solution, but he doesn't want us to go forward with it right now. But
He said that.
Yes, so, but this is where there's some disconnect, because you have just stated that there is there an MOA with inside the
With
Vantas, but the Air Force
And we
approved?
are currently, if you look at the original application, we're outside the airspace of the Air Force Base. We're outside the shelter of all their space. So we're outside of everything currently there. We're not building any wind turbines or anything that are gonna be tall and maybe part of that study. We're outside of their airspace, and we're not doing anything that would affect the legislation of land as far as things that are encroaching.
So that's the thing that I'm kind of conflicted with right now, because I'm having these conversations with him, and he is a newer wing commander, so I don't know what maybe, and I don't want to say it out loud. I'm sure he has all the information, but this would be something that I'd like to visit with him and about specifically.
Mr. Ford.
Sorry, Madam Chair, I should have also indicated that earlier this afternoon, right before the commission meeting started, I actually received an official statement from the base. I should have led with that. I apologize. The local region has experienced multiple instances of concerning encroachment activity within recent years. Grand Forks Air Force Base was designated a highly sensitive military installation in 2024 due to the nature of its current and future potential missions. At this point, Grand Forks Air Force Base is awaiting the completion of the compatible use study, so we can offer an informed decision.
Now, going off of that, so
Sure.
it's up, so this compatible use study is a lengthy, I'm just, you know, it's about
Yes, ma'am.
18 months, but after speaking with Colonel Rosales today, he is reaching out to his team. I think he's already done it. He's gonna follow up with me in a week. And he is going, my suggestion was, how can we get this done faster? So he is going to see who he can get on his team to figure out how can we do the portion of Gorman Field that might be in part of this study to get it done faster.
I guess my opinion is this is the third time we've been here.
I know.
And it doesn't affect anything going on in the air. Whether we put this to a hard surface or not, whether we encroach on the base or not, this request doesn't have anything to do with that. If at some point we're deemed to be some kind of a, I don't know what you want to call it, encroachment on the base, of course we will have to comply. The request before you today really doesn't have anything to do with that. I mean, we're there already. So if we're encroaching or not, we are or we aren't. That isn't going to change anything on their study, isn't going to change anything of their opinion. So to me, changing the grass to the hard surface gets us immediately a safer program that's going on. It gets us where we have originally planned to be. And if we're deemed at some time to be an issue for the base, then of course we have to address that. We're there today, whether we put
Right.
a hard surface down or not. So waiting additionally, I'm not trying to be whatever. It's just, what's the point? Like,
No, I
we're
understand.
just gonna keep kicking it down the road.
And I
kick it
don't
down.
want to, I'm.
And you're
like I
not gonna,
said,
you're not gonna sit there and say the base has the decision for you, right? You have your own authority, not them. It's your decision, it's your authority.
Absolutely, it's our own decision, but we have a relationship with them, and this would probably be the
And so do
third
we.
time, that we've gone into an agreement with somebody and we've had to either backtrack or change
Sure.
because we were having miscommunications with somebody. So again, I personally, put it down. I don't care, whatever. But I want to make sure, even if it's one more week to visit and see if he's maybe not getting the, I don't want to say accurate information, but maybe there's just some sort of miscommunication about, especially about this radar.
Sure, we
And
reached out to him before the first meeting and got no negativity from him on anything. So I thought this was handled with the base. Every flight, maybe not every flight, but any flight over 400 feet is definitely in communication with the base and has approval to launch. So we have a pretty good relationship with their agency folks.
Yeah, so you've got approvals in writing from multiple entities.
Yeah.
The Air Force Base, if I'm not mistaken, is one of them. Is that?
So my understanding from the Air Force Base is they're not willing to make a public statement on a public matter. So the fact that you guys have something in writing is interesting to me. I'd like to obviously see it and visit with you. So,
And I'd be willing to have this conversation with you, with him, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Do some sort of,
yeah, we're not trying to be
Yeah.
difficult.
no, I know. you-
I actually
I
thought
know.
this was a
We're
pretty
trying
easy
to, I know,
request,
we're
to be
trying to figure out
honest,
how to
so.
get to a yes, so.
Yeah, no, we appreciate everything. It's just honestly what we thought we were requesting is to turn some grass into some concrete. And that's all we're asking. We're not asking for approval from the base. We're not proud of the FAA. None of that. We'll have to deal with all of them separately as our own entity, as a private landowner. So,
I think even the wing commander would agree that 12 to 18 months, excuse me, is not a reasonable period of time to give somebody a yes or no answer.
Mhm.
I mean, if
well, we're missing the construction season now from when we originally put in this request 4 or 5 months ago.
yeah, I mean, even 12 to 18 weeks is a little, in my opinion, outlandish. Yeah, so 12 to 18 months is, I just don't know how a test could possibly take that long. So like she had mentioned to you, I'd be,
Let's say it comes back and says Gorman Field has some kind of I don't remember the term they're using. Encroachment. Okay, so what changes to where I am today versus if I convert the grass to a hard surface tomorrow? So if they deem me having an encroachment on it, whether I have that part paved or not, does that make a difference to anyone? Because I'm gonna be deemed of having an encroachment either way, right? So, That's
And I
my,
don't know if it necessarily is, has anything to really do with the ground itself, it's this radar, that's the thing that keeps.
but the radar's there, that we're not asking for anything with the radar, we're asking to turn grass to concrete. The radar, that's already there, that's already been handled. If they have issues with it, there's plenty of email traffic with them offering anything they want with that radar. And it's been handed over, so Vantas has, I mean, we've done everything with that. Here, all we're really looking for is concrete to grass. If we're encroaching already, right? That wouldn't affect anything.
Chair, I have a question of you. Have you ever contacted Tom Sawyer at Grant Sky to see if that was an option to use your drone, to expand your drone program? Because obviously those runways are already there.
Those runways though are intended for larger military driven aircraft, not the little things that we're flying. But yeah, we know Tom Sawyer and Grand Sky, of course. Grand Sky is very well known in this area. But no, it wouldn't be compatible for us. That's why we have Gorman Field. It's more for the smaller things that wouldn't be as appropriate for there.
What size are you talking about? I mean, I've been out there and they have pretty middle.
The Grand Sky.
Yeah.
For the most part, your two clients out there are General Atomics and Northrop Grumman. And I don't want to speak about what Grand Sky does, but those are the big ones. They taxi out onto the Air Force runway and take off. They bigger than our little system.
Before you might be able to speak to this a little bit more, but from the few times I've gone out there to see these test flights, they're not.
Project Ultra isn't big.
No.
No, so, yeah, Madam Chair, Commissioner Pete,
Maybe that's what you're seeing at night. Is them. I don't know, but it's not us.
they can accommodate small, medium, large. I mean, obviously the big ones are what get the most attention. A Range Hawk, Global Hawk, or Predator Reaper that's been converted, or at General Atomics. But for example, the weather program, Grand Sky uses for flight sets, a drone about the size of the desk, goes vertical takeoff. Project Alter, it's everything from slingshot to vertical takeoff. So I mean, you can accommodate.
Well, that's right outside the base fence, right? So we're a lot farther than that. We're 5 miles away. So we're quite a ways further than that.
But it's my understanding that they got the symbol though.
To fly a weather for their Grand Sky.
The county can fly anything through the joint use agreement. And then we give Grand Sky though, through the county, through our lease they have.
So again, we're drifting into flight now. Honestly, I don't want to sound whatever, but we are very versed in FAA and all the flight. We're approved to fly everything we fly. We've never flown anything we're not. So the flight side of it, I feel like we're comfortable handling that. I guess what I'm trying to determine is what it is you would like us to do, because I keep getting sent different messages on what the issue is to put grass into concrete. And so it has to do with the radar. Well, it really doesn't have anything to do with the radar. It has to do with airspace. Well, it doesn't have anything to do with airspace. It has to do with whatever. It doesn't affect any of the things. So I'm happy to comply with whatever it is you'd like to do. But I don't know why the Air Force would have any jurisdiction over you or me on putting concrete down over grass. But we definitely work with the Air Force. I mean, we want to be a good neighbor to everybody. We certainly don't want to get sideways with any of them.
And I think we're all also in the same position, agreeable. I mean, I too want to say yes to this, but I also, again, less than 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago now, having this conversation with the wing commander about this. So I want to find what meeting this communication and what have you.
Sure.
And I would be happy to have that conversation either with you in a meeting, face to face, on the phone, whatever that may be, because I agree with you. This is kind of, it's just crap. It's just concrete. So.
And it doesn't change the encroachment problem that you're mentioning, right? It doesn't make a difference to me whether I pave it or don't. If I'm encroaching on them, I'm gonna have a problem.
Madam Chair, I think Mr. Magnuson does have a report in the package too, if the chair wants to hear his report on the application.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, might I make a clarification from Mr. Pino's statements?
Sure, go ahead.
the FAA is the entity that is in control of this, of whether or not a runway can be built or an airport can be built. Mr. Pino said he did not have to have the determination by the FAA whether they can build one there or not. That is federal law. It is inaccurate what he said. I've just been today in contact with the airport's office of the FAA at Bismarck.
It's not an
So
airport.
it is up to the FAA to do a determination based on their aeronautical study of whether or not any airport, private or public, can be built in this country, and it applies here as well.
All right, I will skip a lot of the stuff because we've gone through lots of that. We know where it's at. We know what's being proposed. It is in an A1 agricultural preservation district, and a private airport is a special use within that district. I believe they did get approval back in 2021 for the original site. As they said, they're looking to pave a runway and put in 2 additional buildings for storage. Attached is a recommendation from the Air Force Base from April 14th. At that time, it was not included in the packet because we were in the process of trying to get a base liaison as part of the planning commission. It looks like that's not going to happen. So I did include the base recommendation in this packet. And they did consult with the airspace management team, and there were no objections to the proposed request. The township recommended approval. County Highway Department recommended approval. As you know, we have received concerns regarding FAA regulation. We have to remember that this is a siting process in relation to zoning regulations for legal purposes, which is completely separate from federal regulations and procedures. You know, if there are issues with the FFA or FAA regulations, then, you know, they need to be deferred to them directly, not us. Like they said, we have no legal authority to regulate or control airspace. With that said, I would recommend that a condition be put on the permit that all FAA regulations must be followed. Other than that, you know, as I've been told by former state's attorney Peter Welty, my job is to look at the zoning regulations, take everything else out of it, to give you the most legally defendable recommendation. So with that, I would recommend approval of the amendment to the special use permit with one condition. FAA regulations must be followed. A notice of any violations must be received directly from the FAA. With that, I'd be happy to answer the question.
Well, I'm ready to, you guys got to decide because I know where I'm going. I'm ready to make the motion to approve it, contingent upon notifying. Mr. Maxson will be, if this gets approved, he's calling the FAA tomorrow and tell them what we did. And then the ball's handed off. That's all we can do. So the FAA will be notified because he's gonna call them tomorrow. I've already talked to him about this. They'll call tomorrow in Bismarck and notify him if this gets passed. And then it's on them now. So I don't know where you four are at, but I can't control the air. And I'm not gonna get into controlling stuff I can't control. It's not gonna end well. So I can only do what I can do. So you four talk among yourselves, see where you're at. I'm ready to approve this. And I'll make part of the motion contingent on FAA, and Mr. Maxson will contact them tomorrow to tell them if it's approved. And so they can then talk to whoever to make sure whatever rules followed are followed. And if the rules are not followed, I guarantee you we'll hear about it. So that's all I think I can do as county commissioner. So, and the base, they're gonna get the pot. I mean, I got a document where I got the same guy telling me how great Gorman Field is. So which one is it?
Yeah, he said the same thing to me on the phone, and I would have been a yes too, but I just spoke with the gentleman a couple hours ago and gave him, you know, the opportunity to say no or yes, and he is working right now to try and figure out if they can do this study quicker, and I would just like the opportunity to speak with him again, to let him know that the commission would like to move forward and. whether we
Well, if
can
you're
move
gonna
forward
table, I
together or
think you
not.
need to make it as soon. He's right, that way much
Right, I
longer.
don't wanna wait.
We made it longer,
Ridiculous.
they're not pouring concrete this
Right.
year. And so I don't wanna hold up their,
I just do wanna say one thing. You know, zoning decisions legally are based on findings of fact. Now, the fact is, we have a positive recommendation from the airbase. Will they put it in writing that they want us to wait? They won't at this point. So I would be very hesitant in my recommendation, just to say that based on findings of fact, versus hearsay, which is probably not gonna hold up in court. I don't want to put the county in the position where it's considered a taking, because they applied a long time ago. It's been a long time, and I just don't want to put that risk on that.
And I don't wanna do this even to the next meeting, like I'll call him tomorrow. And if we have to have a special meeting, you know, just to approve it, whatever, but I just ethically to talk to somebody and give them my word that I would do something and then two hours later go back on it, it just doesn't, that's it.
well, I'll just let her rip, and we'll see how the vote goes. I approve, make the motion to approve the application to amend the SUP for a runway and additional facilities contingent upon the applicable FAA regulations being complied with. And a side note, that will be complied with by Mr. Magnuson calling the FAA tomorrow to tell them if this passes. And then they know that the FAA knows, and the citizens know the FAA knows. And that's who, maybe you can make sure you get whoever you talk to contact information with, so that if the citizens call you from the county, you have a contact with the FAA so they can get a hold of them. And so that's all I can do as a county commissioner. So that's my motion.
Or there's a second. Kind of like to hear from Senator Barta, if that's possible, to explain the intent of the law.
Stand in the back and want anybody to see him.
No, I'm putting you on the spot, but figured you were here for this reason.
For the record, Senator Jeff Barter, representing District 43, and I think a lot of people are aware of what I did, and that was Senate Bill 2398, which brought up the whole encroachment issue and the compatibility committee. I don't know that most of what I would contribute is, I would say, falls on the neutral side, because the whole idea with creating Senate Bill 2398 was to address the issue, the unknown issue of encroachment and what we need to protect our installations. And it was to encompass all military installations and anything that might impede their mission capabilities. And that language was specific to that. The legislation itself was written, and the Ag Commissioner, the authority lies within him. They are the ones that are organizing the logistics behind it and who will make up the committee. In my conversation with their office yesterday, they were planning on coming up here in September or October as their original plan. I shared them with what had been shared with me as to where we're at, the status of the compatibility use grant that was being written and what that would bring to the table. Because right now we just have the one study that I'm privy to that was done in 2024 that gave us some of the knowledge as to why we wrote the bill the way it was. To the point, as I sit here and listen to everybody, I think that the question remains is, there's no arguing that the FAA controls the airspace. And so ultimately it's going to stay within that and what kind of activity. So it's the activity associated with it that has that potential. But I also think that with the intent of putting together that committee, that would bring all the parties together to talk about how we can mitigate this issue and how we can control it, whether it's the radar, and I don't want to convolute the idea by falling back on the radar because as has been pointed out, the issue before you is putting down concrete on the ground. And that's the issue before you. And all I can speak of is what Senate Bill 2398 was to do, and that was to make sure that all parties involved say nothing is happening around our installation that is going to inhibit our ability to execute our mission. And I think I believe that there is cooperation between the entities, both UND and the Aerospace Foundation, the activities at Gorman Field, that work very cooperatively, as Commissioner Bierke pointed out, what was seen in the was written in the paper about the cooperation on some of the counter UAS activity. So there is a desire to work together. We have a great ecosystem here, and we want to continue moving it forward, but we don't want to do it at the risk of our nation's defense or putting our exposing our bases to some vulnerability. So I guess that's a statement. I don't know if you had some specific questions, but it was right now, as I understand and visiting with everyone, the compatibility view study is going to take that 12 to 18 months. The Ag Commissioner, as he puts together that committee, was they were targeting having something complete by my opinion, around the first of the year, but they were planning to come up here in September and October, get input as to who should be on that committee. The way the bill is written, we want representation from every political sub, okay, whether that could be impacted by that activity. So that includes municipalities, townships, counties, and then the Department of Defense, or in this case, Grand Forks Air Force Base. Those are the entities that would be present or participate in that committee to make decisions as to ultimately, yes, this is activity that we are concerned with, and we're not okay with that. That's unknown at this point. They said what you have in front of you is, as people have pointed out, is the building of a runway. The activity associated with that remains the question that will be answered with the compatibility view study and anything coming forward.
Technically, we should get a second or the motion should die. Not to take responses, gentlemen.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Ford, did you have another conversation with folks out at the Air Force Base in regards to?
Yeah, I was asked to follow up on some of the comments that were made at the last county commission meeting. And I think there might have been some confusion if UND Aerospace was using Grand Forks Air Force Base radar. And if so, did an MOU exist? So they're not, the beyond visual line of sight at the air base is not the radar that UND Aerospace uses. So that was a point of clarity. Been visiting with specifically the mission support group commander on this. He and their legal was at one of the first meetings for planning and zoning. And yeah, it was the statement I received that I alluded to was from the mission support group commander working with the wing commander and their JA, or their judge advocate legal. And so my discussions, my understanding is the base isn't proposed base, which is like to see the compatibility study completed first. Well, that was my last conversation today.
And that is why I had those conversations with him to speed it up a little bit. Cause I just think.
So it's not fair to aerospace.
No, I know.
It's preposterous.
All right. We have a first and a second. If there's no further discussion. I'm gonna do a roll call vote. Perfect. Carrie?
Aye.
No.
Yes.
all for right now.
So,
Not to make it any.
I can't get that time frame out of my head. Not to sit here and explain my vote, but I can't, 12 to 18 months is not fair to that organization. But people that have spoken up here have really great reasons to be opposed. And so like, this is like me flipping an internal coin. Because I feel for every party on this. But I do believe Lane Magnus is probably correct in the fact that, you know, we don't control the air. They're just putting down some concrete. If it increases the air traffic, which it may, especially, you know, into the future, then we have nothing to say about that anyways. So who am I to sit here and tell somebody they can't put concrete down on their own property? I mean, I would be furious if somebody told that to me. And so I mean, with my nose plugged, my eyes closed, I'm gonna vote in favor. But I wish, you know, if it wasn't for the time frame of that study, I would side on the side of no, but 18 months is not, that's not reasonable for anything. I mean, you can have 2 children in that amount of time.
I've done it. I've done it.
You know, it's just not reasonable. And so if it was 12 to 18 weeks, I think I'd be on the other side of it. But how in the hell can we expect somebody to wait 1.5 years to get an answer that could very well come back yes or no? So I apologize to the people in this audience crowd that are disappointed with this decision. I didn't want to be the swing vote. I was really hoping it would be over by the time it got to me. I just, that's my conscience, and I understand that there's some disappointed folks out here, and for that, I truly, from the bottom of my heart, apologize. I don't know how else I could have voted. So that's my own. So I guess it's
All right.
different.
Motion passes 3-2, maybe something.
So, Mayor, you'll call the FA tomorrow morning, right?
Madam Chair, I'd be happy to visit with whomever at the base you want to visit with, at any time.
I'll get your, I think it's in here, actually, in our packet, and I'll reach out.
Okay.
Very good, okay. Chair Schneider.
What happened to
Sorry.
number 9?
we'll
No,
do it.
what happened to number 9?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Bierke, they weren't ready. They need to bring a petition with.
Okay, so that's
My apologies.
removed? Okay.
It's removed on my list.
Oh, okay.
and
No, I got it, that's fine. So that'll be some other week, okay.
I'm sure I'm glad I'm not the only one that's confused on that.
Sorry about that.
The final state.
That's absolutely fine.
Madam Chair, member of the commission, I got I believe, a couple items for you today. The first one is a Peace Officer Academy for a corrections officer. As we've discussed at length over the last several months, I believe since about January, with the transition of the correctional center falling under the sheriff's office, we'd be looking for some efficiencies, some transitions, working on working more cohesively and being better stewards of our time. Right now, we're kind of in an opportune position in my belief, with a current promotion of a corporal to our transport team. The transport team conducts, as you're aware, all the transports from the courthouse to the jail back and forth. At this time, unfortunately, they are not armed. I think they carry a set of handcuffs and a key, and that's about it. So right now, the Peace Officers Academy is going to be hosted starting September 2nd in the city of Grand Forks, which is a pretty unique opportunity. I've spoken with the captain of the correctional center, Captain Hildy.
She believes that it would not be a huge impact on staffing to send the individual that was promoted to corporal to the police academy. There is a cost with it. We did reach out to the directors of the academy, and they're basically willing to give us a 50% discount as long as the sheriff's office is agreeable to assist in instruction of some of the courses, which we've been doing for decades, a long time. We assist them, we help them out. I don't know if it will be more intense or not, but we'll only do what we can do. The other caveat to this is that state legislature did award back to Blue Grant funding. It has not been disseminated yet. I've completed the survey. They have tweaked the wording on it a little bit. It is to be used for employee retention bonuses, be very clear on that, and for peace officer training. So my belief, and I will get clarification on it, but I'm 95% sure that it would be applicable, that we could utilize that funding to pay for this individual to go to the academy, which would mean it is at no cost to the county or the correctional center. That would come out of that funding. Again, we haven't been awarded that yet. If I'm sure that the academy is willing to allow me to pay once that was permitted, or I could potentially work with finance and tax on the funding of that and how it would be reimbursed. But at this time, I'm requesting the commission to permit me to send a correctional officer to the academy starting September 2nd.
I'll second, but I got some questions. Okay, is the plan here, I'm looking at long term here, the plan is to arm up your transport team, and so every year, depending on staffing, I'll say one or two, you want to send them to your transport team, and then probably even a couple extra case vacation, whatever. So let's say if you need 4, you might have 6 corrections officers that end up going to go through this training X amount per year till and then to be qualified to be armed with transport. Is that the plan?
Yeah, you're correct. The long game is to have, it's called Team F, transport team, all armed police officers carrying. Yep.
Okay, and then you mentioned that the bonus was for just retention or training, is that right? Not hiring.
Correct.
Okay.
To my knowledge, I'll read it.
You just double check, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, I know the jailers thing for a while, there'd be a potential maybe to get some people, but obviously you have to read to find that out. I think that's it. I just want to check.
Yeah, the long-term plan, Commissioner Beerkey, members of the commission, is to eventually get that entire team as sworn officers, which will involve them going to the academy. I did have a great lengthy discussion with the corporal that is going to be going and let him know that failure to complete the academy and pass the academy would result in him not being a corporal, because I have no corporal positions for him besides on the transport team. He's accepting the challenge. I have all my faith in him. He'll get through it. He'll be just fine.
Well,
so
one more, my old man question I forgot is, are you going to try and set aside, if it turns out you can use this funding source from the state, can you project how many you're going to spend for the next 2 years and set that money aside so you could fund everyone that goes in the next 2-year cycle with that money? Is that your plan, or?
Yeah, that's kind of my plan through before the biennium, to send as many as we could, which would be, next year, and it'll depend on staffing, on retention. Right. I believe right now we're down around 8 or 9. I don't know if Ms. Steele can confirm that or not.
I don't know that many at this point, but I'm not sure. Something just closed.
Another resignation for one leaving us in 2 weeks. So we're working on the door. I'm new there. We'll get there.
So we could use that.
Yeah.
So for the 2-year cycle to do this.
Yeah.
Good, thank you.
So what is the cost now? I mean, not even with the 50% in there, what is the
Our
total
cost would be $3,000.
Is that at 50%?
Yes.
Okay, so in other words, it'd be 6,000. Okay.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. The second item I have is regarding an administrative assistant position request for the correctional center. I can touch on this briefly. I believe it might come up in the budget
down the road here. And when I say down the road, I mean probably hopefully around 6:30 tonight. But, I submitted for a administrative assistant position request in the original budget. This budget process this year has been unique and new, unlike any that I've been through. And I wasn't, I guess, fully aware, or notified that that had been somewhere removed from my budget request until I confirmed with Ms. Morstead, during the last budget meeting, was that last? I believe. So, it sounds like it potentially was removed due to lack of job description. I was basing it off of the administrative assistant position, I believe. I can't remember the exact title of it now. Office coordinator, thank you. Position that we currently have with the sheriff's office with some minor tweaks. There's things they wouldn't do in a jail that a sheriff's office would do. I have come to realize in a hurry that the correctional center is in need of no less than one administrator over there, taking care of office coordinator, office administrator, taking care of payroll, vacations, sick, paying the bills. It is, we're getting it a little more under control, but it is quite chaotic. The amount of different people that touch paper to get bills paid, to get submitted to the county commission, to payroll, to finance and tax. And there's tasks, for example, for paying a lieutenant to print out ID cards and work on the printer there. There's just other tasks that would be better put on an administrative assistant, administrative coordinator than a licensed corrections officer at that level. I've seen how it's provided efficiency in the sheriff's office. Right now, unfortunately for Miss Olson, she's doing the tasks of the sheriff's office, bills, payroll, etc., and she's trying to take on as much of the correctional center as she can as well. This position I cannot confirm, but I believe that it would be right around a grade 11. That is what the current coordinator is at. With the departure and vacancy of the jail administrator, I believe that there's some sufficient funds in our current budget where, if possible, we could potentially advertise, hire and employ somebody yet this year with money remaining in the correctional center budget. If not, I would love to see that happen for sure by July 1. There's also a line item in the budget at the jail that I believe could be reduced significantly with the addition of a administrative assistant. So I guess I'll stand for any questions, but my motion would be to add the administrative assistant position back into the jail budget for 2026.
Sheriff Snyder, I have a question. Is the intent that this position would be supervising other people? That's one of the main pieces of Michelle Olson's position.
Correct.
Is she has all of that admin staff under her.
So
So
currently
that
there's,
affects the grade
right.
a lot.
Currently there's 3 administrative staff at the jail that would fall under this individual.
You wanna talk about it during the budget or?
Well, I'll just make my comment. I'm not doing tax increases, so I'm not going for any new hires. Any department. As far as I'm sure what we have is what we got. We can't balance our budget. I'm not willing to add staff anymore. And that's just not a comment on the sheriff. But if we can't balance our budget, I'm not adding people. We need to drop the shovel, but we're digging deeper. So it's a principal position. Once again, sheriff, something about you, but we gotta decide where we're gonna go here because we're not going towards a good place. So
My comment on that, Commissioner, for your key members of the commission is, we're not technically, I guess in my eyes, we're not adding a position. We're replacing somebody that was an administrator with somebody that's gonna do paperwork. So we do, I don't know if it was removed, if somebody removed completely that extra employee or personnel from the jail payroll, like it was just up and gone and we don't get to replace it with anything else. I didn't know that. But it is in there for 2025. So I wouldn't look at it technically as an addition to staff. That's just my opinion.
I do have a question. You made a comment that there are 3 administrative assistants right now. So with like the printing of the ID badges, why isn't one of those administrative assistants doing it instead of an additional position?
Commissioner Peach, members of the commission, great question. Right now, 2 of those assistants are in medical department. And they are tasked with meds. I invite you to, all of you, come sit with the medical department. You can pick an hour or you can pick 8 hours to see what they're dealing with on a regular basis. The other one is at the front window, front desk, and her duty is answering the phone all day long, asking if my boyfriend, if my baby mama, daddy, grandma is in jail, what their bond is, when do they get out, how long do they have to be in there, can I bring them their meds, how do I get them money? That's her task all day long. She barely has time to go to the bathroom right now. We're working on some efficiencies in that area as well.
Thank you.
And part of the other side of it, which could occur, but would just be the training. Steal her away, get her the training on the equipment. And I'm not sure if there's space for it up in her area right now. There could be. That's something that we could look at too.
More we could do, talk about it now, and if we're gonna talk about it more in budget. Motion, is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Any other discussion?
I guess if I could just make one comment before the vote, and then I'll go sit down, but, the biggest request from the board when I was assigned to take over the jail was to look for efficiencies, save money, and try to make it run a little more streamlined, a little better. And I believe that this would be a significant step towards that. There's many cost savings that have occurred that I believe will cover the entire $600,000+ that is planning on, or was mentioned to be used to cover next year's budget. And I believe with the cost savings this year, the more that are coming, potentially, maybe even as soon as next week, that could almost entirely be covered by the correctional side.
Motion to. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
I,
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Just one other thing on a lighter note, I guess, until I get to talk to you here in a little bit, is that the law enforcement community, Grand Forks area, is going to have a law enforcement 5K walk run fun day. It'll be out in front of the Blue Moose on Saturday. The run starts at 9 o'clock. If you have small children, there's bouncy houses. We'll have static displays of fire trucks, SWAT bomb, drones, all the cool things. If you want to come out and take a look, it's about 9 to 11:30 in front of the Blue Moose. So
This Saturday, you said?
this Saturday. Thank you. I have nothing.
I'll drive it 5K.
Drive.
We got a GoPro.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. This ledge is this high.
There's bigger ledge too.
Yeah. Can't totally stand here. 3 requests on the budget for the board to consider. The first one, we had a bid opening for paving of county roads, parts of County Road 2, 5, and 6. It was very uneventful, which is good. Everything went well. Bids were within estimates, and RJ Zavarro was a little bid. $1,273,029.70. And just for the board's recollection, this is all flex funds. And this puts us, so our flex funds would do 4 township structures, overlaying 81, parts of 2, 5, and 6. And we're about 30,000 short. So if this is approved, we would supplement that with county construction funds. And in my world, that's perfect. We got that very close. And with that, I would recommend approval of RJ Zavarro for chair's signature, chair and auditor's signature on the contract.
Second.
First and a second. No, for a second, but all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously with Mr. Ruffin.
Thank you. The next one is flex fund. So the state legislature has changed their generous ways of giving Grand Forks County and non-oil producing counties funding. And most of it is going through a grant program. There is some changes to the standard funding. I'm trying to learn all this here, so bear with me. So our highway tax goes up about 200,000. I apologize here. It goes up 6%. About 200,000. This month we're projected to get a one-time, just a hair over $1 million chunk of money into our highway tax fund, which I've visited with Commissioner Bierke about. It would be perfect opportunity for us to save $500,000 for legal drain 4, which is our likely going to be our local cost for that. And also if we do Grand Forks Airport US 2 interchange or intersection today, that would be perfect as well there too. So it'd be nice that once that comes in, that we save it for that. Apologize here. And we're also projected to get 138,000 in monthly installments the rest of this year, 332,000 next year. However, Prairie Dog Fund went from 5.3 million down to 1.7 million, and the legacy fund earnings went away. So net, we're down 2.8 million. However, the flex fund is increased, so we can apply for more funds that way. So it depends what we get awarded on that standpoint. And the flex fund grants are divided into 3 portions. There's a township bucket, so any townships that want to apply can apply there. However, there's also a portion where county structures on township roads, so since we take care of 48-inch, 60-inch culverts, small bridges, the county can apply for replacement as they're on those ones as well too. Curveball is all township applications. This would be similar to the township fund that we got. The name's escaping my mind. We got last year. We did 7 miles in Michigan and Allendale last year. Township assistance program, excuse me, essentially where this is. But all these applications have to come through the county, like me, and we need a letter from the auditor stating we're aware of that, because all the money gets filtered from the state through the county to the townships for whatever is done. Minimum project is 250,000. They're due September 19th this year. DOT is hoping to make decisions in November or later this year, so that way, if some of the projects could possibly get done next year, is the goal. My concern is if we get 41 townships, right, and if they all want to apply for projects, I don't have the capacity to digest that much in the next month or month and a half. My request to the board and something to consider is there's a consultant that would be willing to put the applications together for free in the hopes that if they do get selected, then they would be able to do the work on that. That'd be one request I would have. The other part there's grants for non-oil producing counties, which is ours. And we have a few projects that could qualify for that, and I'm open to suggestions from the board, of course, but Mandeville Avenue has been talked about. That's the one up with the old DOT road that we split with the city of Granville and Perry Township. And if we wanted to, County Road 5 flood protection project, I was thinking we could apply for a portion of that. That study was finished up just January of 24. City of Thompson has wanted to pave Pacific, which is old, the original highway between Thompson and Grand Forks before the interstate, 481. It's now just a gravel road. They want to apply there and also want to apply. So that's everything north of Highway 15. Also applying for on County 17, just south of State 18 or State 15, doing a joint project where city would have their portion in front of the elevator and the county would have our portion south of that location. And if we wanted to, we could also include like a County 11 grade range where it floods just west of County 5. Just thought of that. That would be a decent project. So those are some preliminary projects we've thought of applying for. The one in Thompson, I was at City of Thompson Council meeting last night and they wanted to apply for it. And if the board has any opinions on that. The other third portion of the flex fund is bridges or grants for bridges. And I feel like I got a pretty good handle on our bridges and certainly can apply, will apply. That's due here just in a couple weeks or next week, actually. So they have a spreadsheet and I can enter data into that and get that submitted. They'll pick the top 5 and then come back to us later with cost share agreements and whatnot, or if anything's selected. I know I just dropped a whole bunch on it. This program is massive. It's huge. I'm trying to grasp it myself, and it's a new program. And I guess my only real request to the board is, do you have projects you want us to apply for? And would it be okay that we direct townships, maybe even smaller cities, that if they want to apply, that they would go to consultant engineer person help get it done fast?
You need that motion.
I don't know. That's a good question.
I'm fine with you picking the projects and you take care of
Yeah.
funneling the people over. I know to me, I've got, obviously, because I live in that area, the Manville Road is deteriorating rapidly. And I love that Thompson idea of combining the county with the city project. We gotta be cost savings if we're doing one long stretch of road as opposed to, and then the other one. I would like to see Manville, Thompson, and then whoever, just go down the line to, we'll just keep applying until they say no. Right? That's
what I think.
Yeah, that's what I'm 100%, yeah. And I do have a technical question. I don't know if this is for Ms. Morstead or Ms. Wamstead or both. I really would like to set aside that $1 million+ for those 2 projects. We're gonna find out tomorrow if Drain 4 passed. And it probably did, but we don't know until they're gonna announce it tomorrow. This to me would be good budgeting. We set that money aside. And then when those projects come due in a couple of years, we'll have our local share ready to go and we won't have to scramble out looking for it. So I guess I'm looking for a technical question. Can I make a motion to set that money aside for those particular projects? Or is that something that Mr. West and Ms. Morstead could do administratively as just part of their normal functions to set that money aside for the legal drain number 4 and for the repair the intersection at the airport? So I guess I'm just looking for some guidance.
I
If
think
that's a
it'd be
staff
budget
decision.
amendment.
Pardon?
I think it'd be a budget amendment.
So I just need to know which one to do.
Are we allowed to hold on to it? I'm period meeting to spend with that.
I'm not aware of any timelines. I think we can hold on to it,
Your mic before.
especially with earmark for 2 projects.
The 2 projects that we know are coming, well, passes, we know are coming. It's just what date they pick to do them.
I wouldn't ask, but I would recommend making a motion.
Yeah, I would say.
Okay, I want to move that the one-time state funding, they mentioned that the first 500,000 go towards the airport project and the remaining money goes to legal drain number 4 if that project is approved.
I would second that motion.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
I,
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. And as far as directing townships and small cities to a consultant,
You want a
I
motion?
mean,
I don't know if we need to. We're not obligating any county money.
no, I think at your
You
discretion.
take care of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
really be direct.
You know when you're busy.
Yeah, yeah, if we get that many applications, there's no way I can process that many. And any of these that we propose, I'm gonna come back to the board hopefully next meeting, or at least the first meeting in September at a minimum. And if there's a local cost share, I would have an estimate and that presented to the board as well too, so. Thank you. I'm sorry, I struggled through that one. That's just, I struggled with that program a
You did a
little
good
bit.
job with
It's a
Snoop.
lot. Yeah. My last request is, we had to let an operator go for some performance issues we were having, and I would like to replace him.
Move approval.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
I,
Opposed? Motion passes.
That is all I have. Any other questions for me? Up there?
I think so. Unless you have any tidbits of information you need to give us.
They poured the abutment on County 2 Bridge today. That was pretty cool. The new bridge by our real estate park. Yeah. So,
My kids still talk about that experience going out to that bridge. That was
Yeah.
good, though. You know, they brought their like little toy trucks and were out digging in the dirt. They thought I was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
It'd be one day.
we can go up to County 2. They're working on
We
it.
could.
We'll do it again.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, we have the half of the budget, but I really have to use the restroom. So I can
Yeah.
take like a 5-minute recess really quick and come back. Chugging along here, we're at the halfway point. We are at the 2026 preliminary budget, and I see that there's a few people that would like to speak on that topic. Mr. Richard Ray.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, member of the commission. You are 2 hours into your meeting and only halfway down your agenda, so I will be very brief. But what I represent the Grand Forks County Historical Society. I'm a volunteer, and I'm the board president right now. And you changed your budgeting process, but some of the people who've been on your board for a while have heard this in other years, and just where we try to give a little information out. But we do have some new board members. For over 40 years, Grand Forks County Commission has supported the 5 museums in Grand Forks County. And those are the Grand Forks County Historical Society, Larimore Community Museum, Niagara Community Historical Site, Northwood Pioneer Museum, and the Manville Heritage Museum. And so I'm here today to thank you for over 40 years. 1983 was the first written agreement that I can find that has been presented to me. So I want to thank you for doing that, and I want to encourage you, of course, to continue to do that. And then just to provide just a couple of little comments. Grand Forks County Historical Society, we're open 7 days a week from May 15th to September 15th, from 1 to 5 in the afternoon. And in order to stay open those hours, it takes some money to do that. And we have our director here, Leah Bozeski, and she's here to, if there's any questions that I can't answer, she can do that. And then in the off season, we are open by appointment. So anybody can come and get an appointment. I don't think we've ever turned anyone down, as long as we have staff available. I'd just like to mention a couple of things that we do. We are an education institution as well. We have what's called entertaining history. We do like 6 lectures a winter, fall, winter, spring. It varies, and these are local people, and they will present on a Sunday afternoon for an hour or two, not two, about an hour, and on all kinds of topics. And in order to improve our presentations, we have videotaped them. So you can go to our website and you can see those presentations. Now there's a few that we missed because our video guy didn't show up, but right now we've got a new system for that, so we think we're going to be good with that. So we do the entertaining history. We do lots of school tours. We've added the migrant schools to the tours in the summer, so that children come to our museum. We have called the Paddle Wheel newsletter, and you can all get that. I've given them out at some other meetings that with the County Commission in other years, and they're on our website, and that keeps you up to date. We do those twice a year. We also do things like schoolhouse days, where we invite little kids to come in and they get to spend a whole day in the one-room school and see how that all works. We believe we're a tourist attraction for Grand Forks County and Grand Forks City. That people come in, and we know that because they sign our guest log and they tell us where they're from, and they're from all over the state, all over the region, and we even get some from out of the country once. So we believe we are a tourist attraction as well. And then the last thing that I would like to mention is that we can help people with their family histories and like an archive. We have an archive. Just last week, an elderly lady, her husband was a hockey player for St. James, and she wanted to know if we had anything that she could, and he passed away by, and remember him by. And Leah found newspaper articles, pictures. You have one very happy person in the county because of her efforts to do that. So we're an archive, not only of artifacts, but also of knowledge for the county. Okay, so I'm going to keep this really short. One thing we do not do, and talk radio has beat us up a little bit on this, and we've tried to correct that. We have no role whatsoever in affecting like building requirements concerning historical buildings. That role is done by the State Historical Society, not us. But nothing to do with it. We've never had anything to do with it, and I don't think it will never happen. So anyway, thank you again for supporting us all those years, and we look forward to continuing our mission and look forward to your support in the future. Thank you. Thank you.
I just want to say I do not envy any of you after this meeting or any meeting. I realize that there are hard budget decisions to make, and I am here to strongly encourage you to continue supporting the Grand Forks Public Library. I'm a native of North Dakota, but I've lived several other places in my adult life. And every time I relocate, I look for a community with a robust library, as I think it signifies the community's commitment to a well-rounded populace. There are few other single county entities that provide so many services to a myriad of ages, backgrounds, and incomes. The library provides knowledge, creativity, and community opportunities all under one roof. Please continue to help Grand Forks residents experience all the library can offer. Thank you.
Amy Harlan? Apologize if I not do the last.
Oh, perfect.
Okay.
And the height of the podium is perfect. Thank you, Chair Hagan and members of the commission. Thank you for giving us a chance to address you on supporting the request of the public library for its budget. I have to confess that I'm not totally unbiased as I say this. I'm the daughter of a book collector who's also a businessman and a medical librarian and the sister of a middle school librarian. And I'm very much biased in favor of literacy. And I'm also biased in favor of investment in the public good. As also a retired business school professor, I can testify to the importance of that investment. You don't invest, you don't see a return. This particular library has been extremely imaginative in its services, such that a few years ago I became a friend of the public library, although not really involved in it in many other ways. Beyond lending books, the library offers a very wide variety of other kinds of services. Many residents of our community rely on the public library for the use of computers and connections to the internet, Wi-Fi, printing services, especially, of course, those without internet access at home. Library funding supports upgrades to technology infrastructure and helps close the digital divide in that respect. If I'm saying anything I'm inaccurate, I'm sure I'll get some support from people who are here. The library also offers resources for job seekers. North Dakota Job Service, I understand, meets regularly at the library to assist with job searches, resume building, and other related services. They also offer access to computers, the internet, as I mentioned before. Programs for children, especially young children, contribute to literacy. There are early childhood programs. And I've also noticed extensive growth in these programs in the last few years. The libraries offer a wide variety of valuable community events, workshops, concerts, and other cultural programs that enrich the community. One of my 5 efforts to retire over the last few years has led me to lead a music program for the North Dakota Museum of Art, which we recently partnered with the public library to offer free concerts there as well. So I guess my overall point is that I have been enormously impressed with how the library works, how it's done for our community, the various services that it offers, and how well it has leveraged its resources to build other resources for the community. I've also grown to have enormous respect for the library administration, and I think their judgment about what the library needs in terms of its financial resources is worth following. The budget they've offers reflects their expertise and their knowledge of the work. And therefore I'm not only on my own behalf, but on behalf of my book club of eight or so octogenarian women who may be small and may be elderly, but we're fierce. And so I urge you to support the library's request. And I close with a quote I just discovered as I was over the last 2 hours of your very interesting discussion from Albert Einstein, who said, the only thing you really need to know is the location of the public library.
Oh, but, okay, let's get into this discussion. You want to go over the page that you added first and then we'll vote. Do that. Yeah.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, at the last meeting, I was instructed to use cash to bring us into the 3% legality for the cap. So that amount was $567,726. That puts
One more
us
time. Five.
$567,726.
Okay.
That puts us at an increase of 0.25 in the general fund, an overall decrease of 2.08 mils. So what's included in the budget is a 19% health insurance increase, a 2.4% COLA, and a 3% step on anniversary, a 1.5 million in capital improvements. We've received 886,000 in requests. We added 2 YAC employees. 1.23% increase in the public safety retirement. The interim fund is at 25%, and we reclassified the YAC administrator.
Can you explain the interim fund at 25%, please?
That is the amount that we've kept it at 15. We've kept it at 25%. I don't know for the last, I don't know how many years.
That's your cash reserve.
Yeah.
You have so many different names, everybody's. That's the 15 to 25%.
Right.
That you keep in cash reserves based on, say, the $30 million you would have then, if it was a 20, you'd want to keep 6 million around. That's what you're talking about. Okay, that's right. That's what I make sure. Thank you.
So I had visited with Colleen earlier this afternoon because there were some adjustments that I wanted to bring forward to the board to discuss. One of them, obviously, we talked about and we approved last week to use some of the cash carried forward to get us to the 3% cap. But I also wanted to see what it would be like to use that cash carry forward to get us to a 0 increase on mills. And that dollar amount, do you have it on here? Yes, right here, 97,653. So the grand total of those 2 items would be 665,379, and someone can definitely check my math on that. I also wanted to point out over the last couple of years, the commission has used cash carry forward, and it's been trending downward. 2023, 4.5 million, 2024, 3.1 million, and then this year from 3.1 million all the way down to 665, if that is something that we decide to do. So I'm really encouraged that we're trending in the right direction. The other thing that stood out to me that I noticed was the difference in budget from last year to this year. I believe specifically the general fund, or maybe it was the overall budget, I apologize. We're down $5 million. So I am so excited that all the employees, all the leadership and people that are contracted with the county understood the assignment. They showed up, and here we are. We are, I think, sitting in a really good position. So with that being said, I had Colleen add the sheriff's administrative staff. And the other thing that I had her add in was the sheriff was not included in a raise, and then the commissioners getting the same raise as the employees with the 2.4% COLA. I watched a little bit of the city's briefing on their budget, and the thing that stood out to me was year over year, they just, if the employees get a raise, the other folks, other elected officials are gonna do it too. I know recently, last couple of years, these people kind of get a raise, and we're not gonna do this, but my overarching reason for doing this is that, not necessarily for me, but for a future generation of commissioners, that you spend a lot of time doing this job, as you should. It's important. And people need to be compensated for those things. We're gonna have a niche market of independently wealthy people that will only be able to be in these positions, and will have the time and the dollars to do so. And I think that those people need to be compensated for their time. And again, I don't believe the dollar amount is very big, but I had her include those two things as well. And I don't know if you decreased from 1 to 2. Yes.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
Is the state's attorney, she's elected official also?
She's already in there.
Is she?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I was talking about what I was adding in addition to what
All
we've
right, I
already
made
had.
sure.
No,
anything is taken
no,
care
I
of.
wouldn't forget about Miss Homestead. I wouldn't. I just, going forward, instead of having, piecemealing raises together, it's just, we are gonna give employees raises, then the commissioners will get raises as well. It's very virtuous for us to not want to give ourselves raises, but I think people deserve to be compensated for their time. And with that, I guess I will open it up for questions and discussion.
I'll go first. First of all, I don't want to raise, so I don't want it. Go give it to me. I had a problem with the city. I tried to stop it there. They did. If you give it to me, I'm just going to give it all away. So I don't want it. So do not give me a raise. All right. So that I got. I want to verify because things keep changing, so I just want to make sure I don't right. So we're looking at a 3% increase. We're going to go with the max allowed by the state law. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, Ms. Morrison, could you? I just want to get the total of the. So we got 567, 726. And if we do the other one, it'd be another 97, 653. I'm just looking at this form you gave me. And then if we do that, then it'd be another 19,531. Is that correct? So all those numbers together would give me the total amount of used up cash reserve.
Yeah, it would be the 567, 26 plus, to bring the general fund to a 0 mil increase, an additional 97,653.
If we did that.
Yes, and then, if we did the 5% sheriff and a 2.4 commissioner COLA, it would be 19,531.
I can handle it. Okay. Okay. I want to follow up on this. On the sheriff's office alternates. We have the 300,000 that we had scheduled in the, I call it the blue book, to pay, and there was 400,000 left. Is that too much coming up? I'll make sure I get this right, because I'm gonna try and see if I can get rid of it, but I don't know. So approximately 400,000, and that's being financed to be paid at a later time. Is that the plan?
Correct. Commissioner Bierke, members of the commission, what was agreed upon by the commission was to pay 700,000 this year. I can't remember how much it was next year. Is it 400?
That sounds good, but
No, it's
300. And the blue book, it was 300.
And then the remaining.
Whatever that is.
2027.
Okay, that'd be 3.2,
So
320,000.
Yeah, 600.
Okay. Okay. What I would like to consider is to, if you look at your, well, it may or may not have it, under the capital improvement request, we're $614,000 extra right now.
Sorry.
It's one of the many piles of papers we've gotten over 3 weeks. So it's, as of right now, we have budgeted 1.5 million. I think Ms. Morton mentioned it. We have expenditures of 886,000. Okay. Since I'm not sure of that number, what I would like to do is take that number, whatever that number is, 400,000. And put that in the 2026 capital improvement budget and then pay that thing off and be done with it, because you're paying interest, so we're losing money.
You're saying just that,
The extra one, the 300,000 is in the sheriff's office budget currently, and then whatever's left, whatever that number is, it's somewhere between 300,000 and 400,000, we could find that out. In a worst case, we could, because it won't change the budget, we could do it at the second meeting in September, because this 1.5 million is budgeted. So we have time to get that number exactly, so we could consider this tonight, and then she could check on it. I think we ought to look at, you've got the money in capital improvements, pay it off early, and if you're at 7%, you just save 30,000, depending on how much you borrow, et cetera. So could you dig all that up and add that to, maybe even to agenda item, and we could vote to stick it into the budget, if it's possible? Oh, okay, yeah, yes, sure.
Commissioner Bierke, members of the commission, you are correct, on that amount. So all the project alternates are there, and they've been financed and paid for. We've paid for approximately half. So we are currently accruing interest on that. So, yeah, I mean, if Mr. Huebner reaches out to somebody to get that amount, but it's gonna change every month.
Right, so as I'm saying, so I'd want to get that paid off, we get paid off the 1st of January, and then save a year and a half of interest. So if we could look into that, I would appreciate that. So yeah, if you could maybe put that on the agenda item, then we could always vote to put that into the budget. And it's not increasing the budget. It's shifting from, under the capital improvements, it's just taking from not spent to spent. And so then it's trying to save some money there. I looked over the, yeah, it's the one you got up right now. You've got 13,154,716 cash reserves. I'm just going off the general fund data. Do you have an estimated, if you don't have it tonight, whenever, do you have an estimated cash reserve for 12/31/2026?
I believe Ms. Morstead sent this to me earlier, and if you give me 1 second, I think I have it here.
Okay.
Pull up. This was the cash by now. Sorry, budget. It was a long email thread. Are you cash carry forward? Is that what you're?
I don't know what you guys,
So cash carry forward is
Yeah.
the dollars that we didn't
yeah,
spend.
right, for, as of 12/31/2026, what would we have left in that pot?
In cash carry.
Right, because we're at 13,154,760 at the end of this year. Did you project out what you think it would be at the end of next year?
At the end of 2026.
Yes,
So at the end of 2026, the cash carry forward would be 4.9 million.
I can't. Unless we run a lot of banks.
Cash carry forward, that's 3.7 million.
Okay, I'm looking at the general fund under,
Yeah, 3.7 is just the general fund. I apologize.
no, but under cash, it's the page you have up, top line, budget, earned term, subtotal cash. Go down to the bottom of the category of general operations, it's 13,154,760. So I'm looking for that number at the end of 2026. What would the number be then? Do we know what that number is? And if we don't have it yet, okay, then, okay. And so I just want to throw this out too, is long-term, in my world, at least, we do not want to borrow $5 million to pay off the sheriff's office, because the 5 million will now become 6 million after you pay interest, after you make the payments for 10 years. And so I'd like to, once we get that, and that, I guess this doesn't have to be a budget thing per se included in the budget. It's something we should look to for long-term planning. In my world, I would want to set aside the $5 million and take that out of the pot so that it can't be touched. It's going to go to the sheriff's office. We're going to pay it in cash. We're going to, worst case, we can't get rid of it early. At the 5-year mark, we're done. It's paid. It goes away. And so we set that money aside so it can't be touched. And then you'll know where you have your cash reserves. Because otherwise, I'm just, who knows what the interest, but
Right.
It's going to be at least $1 million more than you're going to pay another $1 million for that building more than if you paid it off. So that doesn't have to be a budget, but it is, but it isn't. It doesn't have to be included in the budget. Okay, so I'm not going for it anyway, but I just wanted to bring those up to try and, save some more money. That's what I'm at.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion. And my motion would be included in the budget, all of the items highlighted or at the bottom of the sheet that Colleen gave us.
Yes, and can I interject for just a moment? I'm not sure the two added yak, we spoke later on in the afternoon, so I don't know if that was changed, but it'll be one yak employee, one sheriff's, administrative assistant for the jail. So the two employees still, but two different places. So I just wanted to make a clarification.
Okay, so that's one yak and one jail. Is that the one you just voted for? Okay.
Thank you. Also, I would like to increase the budget at $97,650 to bring the general fund to 0 mills. Look at, adding 5% to the sheriff, and also to the commissioners of 2.4% COLA, which would be $19,531. And that would again go to using the 3% tax increase and funding with cash carry forward of no more than $700,000.
84,926.
Yeah.
Second.
Any other discussion?
I just want to thank, Ms. Morrison and her staff. I know this budget this year especially, I know they had to get the elite special forces, three finance people together because it's very complicated the first time out. I know you and Ms. Dorsett and Mr. Baumbach, is that his last name? From the school, they worked together and I know it was very complicated. So I appreciate, I know, well, she got thrown into the lines then on the first budget, so I just want to appreciate the work you staff did on that.
Thank you.
Second that. Very, very proud to have you. Safely speak for all of us. Yeah, you're doing a great job in a really tough position.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, we have a first and a second. If there's no further discussion, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Beasley?
No.
Ms. Beek? Yes.
Yes.
I'm a yes, motion passes. Two. I just to say last couple comments about the budget again. I think we've done a pretty good job trying to redirect. Our general fund is down. We're able to give raises. We're able to keep the contracted services the way that they are. And I know this isn't we're probably gonna do this again next year. So that's a notice for everybody who gets money from the county and to the department heads that this is probably gonna be a repeat next year, just to again, continue to correct course, save money, pay off things, but still take care of our employees and our citizens. So with that being said, let's move on. Where's my
County administrator.
county administrator? All right, you got a few things there, sir.
Yeah, Madam Chair, we have Mr. Lance Anderson on Zoom with us from North State DOCR. So Madam Chair, if you're okay with it, I'd like to just give it to Ms. Wamstead right away to go into the status of the DOCR lease contract updates.
Okay.
Chair, members of the board, the latest version of the contract between DOCR and the county for lease space at the Grand Forks County Correctional Center was included in your packet under the state attorney report. I'm just gonna go through that document here and kind of highlight some of the high spots for you. Just to be clear, this is a very evolving conversation and document. I received an update from DOCR after this meeting started today. So it's very much still a work in progress, but I can kind of hit the high spots for all of you and answer any questions that you might have. And Mr. Anderson from DOCR, as Mr. Hort indicated, is also on Zoom. And so he certainly can speak to his agency's position. You know, we've had a lot of discussions and I'll kind of highlight those points that maybe we don't yet have a meeting of the minds on, but, he certainly is welcome to chime in too if his agency's perspective is needed. The biggest piece I think to know is that we're very close. There are just a few provisions that are kind of the hang up. But overall, I think, the county and the DOCR folks have, kind of come to a meeting of the minds on the bulk of. So, just kind of starting off at the top of the draft that was provided in your, packet. As you're aware, it's a 8-year, contract. The commencement date was adjusted to be, approximately October 1st. There's some items on the county side and the state side as far as staffing and things like that that need to get shored up before we could actually have their inmates in the beds at the correctional center. And so that's why that date is kind of been evolving. The other item that's the big adjustment is you'll see on the first page, what's in the current draft is it's for 60 beds at the correctional center, which is different from the original discussion of 72. We kept with the same idea of a per bed rate of the $100 per bed. So the rate obviously is adjusted based on the adjustment of the beds. You know, Sheriff Schneider and Mr. Anderson certainly can chime in, but generally the summary I can provide is when this number was pitched, seems like everybody was consistently on the same page and agreeable to that number as well. So if we move into more of the details of the contract, as we've discussed before, the county would provide to DOCR 3 offices for their staff that they plan to have on site. The county would provide training and equipment for their staff, so radios and whatever else might be needed. Another item is that the expense of clothing for the inmates will be relatively considerable. So the parties agreed that initially DOCR would provide the clothing for the initial inmates that came with some spares, but then thereafter that burden would be on the county. If we move to page 3, under paragraph 18, we've discussed before the idea of if DOCR felt the need to make any adjustments to the structure of the building, that we would, as a county, would want to be able to approve that. And we also would want them to change the structure back to the original state so that if, you know, once the contract expired or they left the facility, we could have it back in order for the county's use as needed. So the parties were agreeable to kind of what we've discussed before. And if they changed it in some way that was positive for the county, we certainly could agree to that.
Ms. Holmesy, could I just comment on that? So when we met in person with the DOCR regarding this portion of the contract, there was clearly a misunderstanding between the county and DOCR. We are under the assumption they wanted 3 office spaces in the admin wing. They actually want 3 spaces in pod 4. So there will need to be some sort of remodeling inside the pod. Like, for example, there's a nurse's station in there right now that could be converted. There's also a meeting room. I think it was set up so you could do like a Zoom call. There's, I believe, 3 of them. They talked about converting one of those to an office as well. So those on section 7 on page 2, those 3 offices they're referring to are in pod 4, which under 18 states that they're going to have to do some remodeling to make it an office, not designed to be an office. And so those spaces will be changed out for them to get their programming and their personnel in there.
And that's something that the state is paying for to remodel?
Yeah, in the contract, and Mr. Anderson, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe in the contract, it states that we approve the changes, but you will pay for those modifications. So you understand?
That's correct.
The provision I highlight for your attention is on page 3, paragraph 4, titled Escalation Clause. This is the first item where we haven't quite had a meeting of the minds between the parties. If you recall, way back when we signed a letter of intent with the governor's office, part of that letter of intent that the governor signed and the chair of our board signed was that there would be an escalation provision. What it didn't provide is the rate of that escalation. That was part of the details to be negotiated by the parties. And so in our discussions, we went back and forth. We've pitched a number of different options. We've suggested maybe it could follow the CPI so that as inflation adjusts, this would adjust accordingly. We've suggested annual increases or biennial increases to align with the state's every other year budgeting process so they could budget accordingly. Those are some of the things pitched from the county side. What's been pitched from the DOCR side is they would like this provision to read that any rate adjustment would be negotiated at the time of increased cost. As your legal advisor, I'm not comfortable with that. I think there needs to be an automatic provision to keep up with the rates that our neighbors are paying, that our federal counterparts are paying, so on and so forth. And I think it becomes, once you sign an agreement, it becomes much more difficult to renegotiate that at a later date, once you have that agreement with the party. So I think it would be in the county's best interest to have some automatic escalation, specifically what that looks like that we could agree with the state. I'm not sure exactly what that might be. One thing that DOCR raised in relation to this is they only get their appropriations for the biennium. So every other year they know what financing they have available. However, this contract does provide a termination provision if they don't receive sufficient appropriations, as all contracts do with the state of North Dakota. So for example, if we agree to a certain dollar amount or follow the CPI or whatever, and DOCR is unable to secure that appropriation during the legislative session, that's a provision that they would be allowed to terminate the agreement under. So I don't think we should count out an escalation clause merely because they budget every other year, because they have that escape clause in the
I'd just like to make a couple comments or points on the escalation clause as well. So the contract at this point and was originally approached was $100 a bed a day. Right now there are, I don't believe I'm incorrect, but I believe there's only 3 existing contracts right now at the correctional center that are $100 a bed a day. And the rest are all in excess of that. Most of them are 105. Our federal partners, who we will be negotiating with for a higher bed rate at the end of the year when we renew our contract with them. Again, they're a federal entity. They can't guarantee anything, but there will be a significant potential for a significant increase in our per bed per day starting January 1. That's all I can say on that. The other point on this escalation clause is currently, and I have nothing against the state. Me and Lance get along great, Mr. Anderson, sorry. But the state pen rate currently for inmates is $105. They're willing to pay us $100, and then we have to negotiate for a higher cost in 2 years. Well, what myself and Ms. Wamstead were trying to work on is to get them to the $105 a bed a day in 2 years. We did a 2.5% increase based off of the $100 original. And we said, let's just do $250 a year. And then, okay, they want to buy in, so let's just do $5 a year. So in 2 years, we want them at the point where everybody is today. That's just kind of hard for me to swallow. And another point that was brought up, not by myself or Ms. Walmstead, is it sounds great that they're willing to negotiate in 2 years, but they're really not willing to negotiate on it right now. So how's it gonna go in 2 more years? They just say, there's no money in these pockets, it's still $100 a day. So I just wanted to bring those to your attention, and I'd encourage if Mr. Anderson has any. This point on.
On that point, Mr. Anderson, or any other?
No further comment on that.
Then if we move on to page 4, the bulk of this is pertaining to the medical services. Short summary is on-site care is the county's responsibility. If the inmate needs to be brought off-site, that financial responsibility is in the county. So if we move along to page 5, the next item that we have yet to come to a meeting of the minds is paragraph 9, pertaining to damage to property. Essentially, before I get into the details of this provision, I think it's important that we all understand the purpose of this pod. So when it was built for the purpose of being a minimum security facility. So it doesn't have maybe all the secure, or maybe Andy can word it better than I can, things that you would for a higher security area.
Sure. So, members of the commission, this pod came about long before I was anything to do with the jail besides providing them with customers. So this pod was designed to be more of a very, very minimum security, a prized place in the jail where prisoners would want to be to try to increase good behavior. Okay. So with that thought in mind, there are porcelain sinks and porcelain toilets and connecting rods between bathrooms, toilets and whatnot, and the shower with aluminum rods holding them together, hollow aluminum rods with 1/4-inch screws. We have yet to have anybody that's associated with a correctional facility walk through there and say, I've seen one built like this before. Nobody says that. This is minimum security, designed for minimum security. What's the point on that? People at the Department of Corrections in Bismarck have several amenities. We're talking Xboxes, right? They got better food choices. They can go out in a yard. They're not going to like going back to a county, no matter what county that is. So our concern is without having to be able to discern the type of prisoner we can get, right? It's DOCR's discretion for the most part. They get to decide who we get. We could be replacing toilets as fast as we can get them at the expense of the county. So, and we've tried to work on, you know, who can we get? Like some of the best prisoners are females. It's written specifically for males, I believe. So that's not going to be an option. Or sex offenders, less likely to try to break things, etc. In order to have a pod of sex offenders, I believe that it would have to be all sex offenders. That hasn't been part of the discussion. It could be a potential, but the concern right now is, you know, getting with Mr. Gershesky and figuring out how many toilets and sinks we're going to have to order, how long it takes to replace them, and at what level of replacement cost to damage is the county willing to support in this contract. But toilet and an install on that takes a unit out of operation for 10 days, and the toilet costs, I don't know. I haven't seen that in the meeting. I'm guessing it's no less than $1,000 because it fits into the wall, plus the labor hours to install it. How many of those are we willing to do? Because the amendment that the state made to this is that they wanted the funds to come out of the inmate's canteen, or the inmate would pay for it. Well, I'm supportive of that, but I'd rather have the state pay us the money and then they get the money from the inmate. Otherwise, we're not seeing any money. And there's gonna be damage in there. Like, I am guaranteeing you that there will be things destroyed within the first, and Mr. Anderson, how long? 2 weeks, week? It's not gonna take them long, and they're gonna start getting disgruntled and breaking things. So, we'll figure it out in my budget, I guess, but it'd be nice to get reimbursed. And we did work on this extensively, every meeting and rehash we had on this contract. The county has removed things like, okay, well, let's just leave it basically to sprinkler heads, toilets, panels, separating bathrooms, like the actual structure, windows, breaking out windows. Let's just leave it to those things. And obviously, if I was the one sending the prisoners there and I knew that they were gonna be breaking things, I'd say, we'll have them pay for it. So, and there are reasons that the state has to support them not paying for it, putting the liability on the prisoners, and I agree with that too. We should make them pay for it. They're their people. Let's make them get the money from their people. That's my stance on it.
So just to kind of piggyback on what Sheriff Schneider's provided, I think there's few assumptions we can make that are pretty certain here. Number one, there will be damage. And number two, there will certainly be scenarios where the inmates won't be able to. So the question becomes, who carries that liability on their books? Should DOCR or should Grand Forks County? It could become a pretty considerable liability in light of what Sheriff Schneider shared. And so we've kind of went back and forth on this, and the version that's before you today that, again, I don't think DOCR is agreeable to, we've kind of split the baby, I guess, for lack of better terms. So if it's a fixture, if it's damage to the structure of the facility, DOCR would have that responsibility to hold that liability on their books until reimbursed by the inmate. If it's not structural, clothing, bedding, mattresses, things along those lines, the county would hold that liability on their books until the inmates pay. That's the latest suggestion put forth by the county. But I don't think, based on the correspondence I received this afternoon from DOCR, that's not something that they are on board. So, moving on to page 6, there's the provision, paragraph 10, for intensive custody care. It's essentially a $100 upcharge for anybody that we can't have with the regular population in this pod. So if there are behavioral issues or whatnot, there's the option for the county to move them to a single unit, but then DOCR would have to pay that additional rate. This is a provision I think we finally come to a meeting of the minds. We had kind of some back and forth on notice requirements and whatnot. But Mr. Anderson can chime in if I'm incorrect, but I think we're both parties are agreeable on this item. And the next one is transportation. It's my understanding that the current provision here is not agreeable to DOCR. Essentially, how this paragraph reads is that if the county will agree to transport their inmates to medical appointments or whatnot, free of charge. But if it exceeds 12 hours, the county is going to start billing DOCR. And just to kind of give you a general idea of how it's currently handled for individuals in the correctional center. If somebody, an inmate says, I'm going to have a heart attack or something, and they necessitate medical attention beyond what the correctional center can provide, the corrections officers will bring them into Altru. If it looks like they're going to be there long term, the correctional center will be in contact with someone from my office, and we'll make an assessment on that case, on that inmate, if we think it's something that we can feel comfortable releasing them. So let's say this individual is in fact having a heart attack and may need to have open heart surgery. We'll make that risk assessment of, you know, are they high risk and we want to have COs stay at Altru until they're released to go back to the jail? Or is it something where we can feel comfortable amending bond or granting a furlough or something like that to be more efficient with the correction officer's time? So that's kind of a back and forth we work together with the jail personnel on when there are inmates. Now, this becomes much more complicated when they're not county inmates, because our office doesn't have authority to request that a sentence be amended or that somebody be granted a furlough for their medical needs when they're not under our jurisdiction. They're DOCR inmates that perhaps came here from another county. Under those circumstances, the corrections officers or deputies or whomever is transporting them would be required to stay at the, you know, hospital or whatever facility they're at, potentially for an extended duration, depending on the scenario. So the language that's currently in here is what the county has proposed to DOCR to kind of limit those scenarios where staff would have to expend an extended period of time with inmates outside of their facility. To be clear, I don't think the current language there is something that's agreeable to DOCR, and I would, you know, defer to Mr. Anderson to expand on that if the board has.
So what specifically are they not agreeable on to this constitution?
$55. Chair Hagan, members of the commission. So the reasoning, just another perspective to just reiterate and emphasize what Ms. Walmstead said. We're not charging them to take people to the hospital, doctor appointments, dental appointments. You wouldn't believe the amount of teeth that get pulled in that jail. Not in the jail, but from inmates, taking them out. So our transport team is going all day long, including right here to the courthouse and to Altru, to the dentist, and then the in-custody hearings that actually don't even leave the jail. Somebody's gonna walk them back and forth. Adding a new pod, we knew we were gonna have to add more to the transport team, and we're not sure what the workload's gonna be. I mean, if we get 60 or 72 people from DOCR that all need regular dialysis appointments or something like that, we're gonna get worked over, right? But we understand that part of taking care of inmates is medical treatment. So we're gonna transport them. We're not saying that we want to charge you every time we leave the jail and take somebody to an appointment. We hit the threshold at 12 hours, but if we're sitting on somebody, they're gonna get discharged and it's hour 16 or 18, we should be able to absorb that. I know it's not memorialized in the contract, but it would take more time to try to figure out that bill than it would to have somebody sit there 4 hours. What I'm looking at is what Ms. Walmstead said. If somebody that has a significant medical condition, now we're sitting on them. So what's DOCR gonna do? Are they gonna send somebody up when they're on the send up, or probably 3 for a rotation to sit on that person, or is that assigned to us? We're calling staff in for that. We deal with this frequently, unfortunately, on both the deputy side and the correctional officer side, where you're calling people back and you're calling people into work off shift and paying them extra to cover, because you gotta sit with them. So this could potentially be a significant cost. Outside of medical emergencies, well, it would be medical, but the other end that we see at end of the spectrum is assaults. So if somebody is beaten badly enough where they have to undergo a surgery, or they're unconscious or whatever, they're gonna be in the hospital for a couple, 3-5 days, whatever. We have to sit on them. That's the intention of the base contract rate, because we're gonna have to call in people to cover that. We need to maintain our operations up on North Washington while we're sitting on this person. And we pay our people overtime, because it doesn't take long. It takes 11 hours to get that overtime rate. So we pay our people extra. You pay our people extra to sit on these people. We just want the state to also pay them extra, because we're gonna have to call people in.
Just want to provide a little bit of clarification on that one here, if I have the opportunity. I believe there is a little bit of misunderstanding in the way that we read section 11. The way that we are reading it is anytime that a offender is leaving the county jail, that we would be charged that transportation cost. And so I don't necessarily want to talk through specific language changes at this point or anything like that, but I think there's something there that or a misunderstanding that we could work further on.
Moving on, paragraph 13, just a point to highlight in our discussions, DOCR wanted to ensure that the provision that the county agrees to accept offenders, including those with behavior problems. That was something that DOCR wanted to ensure was added. Just so you kind of understand the historical negotiations here. The county originally wanted a provision that the county had a right to reject an inmate. So for example, if there was a real problem person, we could say, we don't want John Doe in our facility. We can't manage him any longer. Bring him back to Bismarck or wherever. I understand that that's a more complicated process. So the current agreement is that the county can request somebody be removed, but ultimately the decision of what inmates are in those 60 beds is up to DOCR. So that's why some of these other provisions are extra important, like the damage to property, is because we as the county don't have the ability to say, we've had enough, send it back. So then if we move on to page number 7, I wanted to highlight the second paragraph at the top of this page, or the second full paragraph at the top of this page. If you recall a while back when the board discussed this agreement, my impression was it was very important to all of you that there was a provision that these folks aren't being released to our community. They're getting sent back to where they came from. And so we visited with DOCR about the board's interest in that provision. I think we came to something very close to that, but not quite that. So essentially this paragraph provides that they would try to return them, but if the individual had a release plan that included the Grand Forks area, that they would then release them to the Grand Forks area. So it could be a Williston case, but maybe the particular circumstances of this individual, DOCR felt it would be most fitting for them to be released to the Grand Forks community. That would be allowed under the current state of this agreement. So I just wanted to make sure all of you were aware of that provision as well.
Can I ask a question? On this release plan, who decides the release plan is good? Oh, if it is, you can answer.
Yeah, members of the commission, DOCR comes up with that, and you know, just to again emphasize what Ms. Holmstead said, a part of this contract also states that if they lived here, if they lived in Grand Forks, and there was no parole plan, they were just, you serve your time, you're done, you're out, they could kick them right out the door because they live here. The other part is that if the release plan is in the Grand Forks area, okay? So, and I worked with DOCR, but I haven't worked with DOCR, right? I want to trust them, I want to give them the faith, but you gotta play devil's advocate as well. So it says, or if the release plan is in the Grand Forks area. So Grand Forks area, right? Like we could get the Northeast Judicial District. We get Nelson County, Walsh, Trail, Steele, right? We could get the area, but we could also get the Williston guy, and there's no place for him to go. And so now DOCR could say, well, our release plan for Mr. Williston is Center Inc. in Grand Forks. And then the next 25 releases we have on a Grand Forks, all are now, their release plan is to a place in Grand Forks. I'm not saying they're gonna do that, but that's one of my concerns, and that's something that if or when this is signed, then I'll make sure that we're tracking. how many of these inmates that they're bringing here are the release plans for the city or the area of Grand Forks? Because again, I have no problem with the ones that are from here. They're coming back, we throw them back in jail, they go back out to Bismarck, they come back. That's our cycle. Not all of them, but most of them. But if we start getting the tricklers from everywhere but our Grand Forks area, that would be concerning. So I can't determine what the release clause is, where they send them to. They can. I'm putting my faith in them at this point that they will release the ones we get from Jamestown, Bismarck, Minot, whatever, back to spaces in those communities and not leaving them in Grand Forks, making them our problem.
Is it a board that determines the release plan, or is it just? Because I mean, maybe if we would have a say on that, if it seemed unreasonable or something, what do you say to that?
I can explain release plans a little further. So we are employing 3 staff that would be within the Grand Forks County Correctional Facility. And a big piece of that is working with those residents to identify release plans. And so what a release plan is finding a residence that they plan on residing at upon release. So it might be staying with like grandma or a spouse or a girlfriend or a friend, maybe an employer that they've been at, and so on. And so we're working for the best possible release plan for those individuals. And so like Sheriff Schneider said, if someone maybe came from Walsh County and they were residing in Grand Forks County Correctional Facility, if grandma's coming to pick them up at Grand Forks County, we would release them from Grand Forks County because it's going to be closer than bringing them back to Bismarck and making grandma drive to Bismarck to come get that individual. So I'm not sure if I'm completely hitting your question, but our goal is to get a effective release plan for that individual, which appropriately transitions them back to the community, which is very different in prison than jail. Many times in jail, the individuals are just released and then they've got to figure things out on their own. We're working with them every day and how to most effectively transition them back into the community.
I tell you, as somebody that receives the phone calls and the texts, and emails back when we were having this discussion, that was one of the largest concerns that came up from members of the community is if we're going to be housing these people, it needs to be just in the jail. We can't just be letting them out the door. I think we would lose public support for this, even though the money's good, if we can't strengthen that clause up a bit. I'm not sure exactly what that looks like. I'm obviously not a lawyer, but I can just hear my phone. I can't believe it hasn't started vibrating yet because now people can watch these live. And it's going to be ugly if we bend or break on that particular issue. So I guess even more importantly, in my opinion, than the escalator clause, which it would be this aspect. I'm just one of 5, just stating my opinion, but I could tell you that the people I've heard from, the only thing that talked them off the ledge for agreeing to work with DOCR was the fact that they could rest easy knowing that they weren't going to be released into our town. And so I didn't know about a release plan. I thought they would go back to where they were arrested at.
And a lot of times the release plan will go back to where it's to their hometown a lot of times because that's where their family is, that's where their connection is, that's where their employment is, and so on. But we work so again, like that example of say Walsh County or someplace that's around this area and it's closer to their ride, then we would connect them with that person that would be coming to the facility to pick them up.
I'm just not sure how much comfort the phrase a lot of times would provide our constituents. I think it needs to be all the time. Needs to be rephrased. I hope that's not going to be a hang up. But this would not be a very popular decision that we would make if that isn't addressed. I mean, the escalator clause raised my eyebrows. This one kind of took my breath away. So, because I don't know what a release plan is, and I don't still understand it. And I don't really. I mean, if I injure somebody here today, and my grandma lives in Williston, I don't know why go to Williston, wouldn't I just get released right back here? And so that piece of it doesn't, I guess, make very much sense to me. Hopefully we can work something like that out in the contract language that would tighten that piece of it up a little bit.
My company's, cause you're gonna have 3 people here, and if you tell me that you're gonna set it up so grandma's gonna pick them up and they're gonna verify that they get in the car with grandma and head north, I'm okay with that. But what I'm not, this is a deal breaker. I am not gonna have a bunch for the deal, and I wanna work with you guys and actually help you as much as you can, but I am not gonna vote for something where all I hear now is DOCR saying, well, look at all the facilities in the city of Grand Forks and all the different places they can go to get help. And then we dump all these prisoners in town. I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole.
We already have issues. getting people to-
Exactly. We have homeless issues. We have all sorts of issues. And I am not voting. I don't want to be lynched. I'm not going down that road.
You see this in the side, on the Minnesota side a lot. Grandma may be in a neighboring county of Polk County, and grandma's gonna pick them up, but where does grandma take them to? The closest homeless shelter. And we see that at the Care and Share a lot.
I mean, I think if we signed on the dotted line with this provision, the way it's written right now, by this time, by our next meeting, there'd be 4 recall or 5 recall after it's taking place, and you'd have 5 new faces on here. I think, like Mr. Bierke said, we'd get stoned and pitchforked for doing that, because that's everyone's biggest concern. So I think if we can tighten up that language on the release plan and make it more of a, you going back to where you were arrested type of a situation, I think the public would heavily support it again. I could just hear the radio tomorrow after this conversation. It's oh my heavens. So can we work on that clause and get that tightened up?
So I do understand the concerns of the committee. One thing to keep in mind though, too, is when someone releases from a facility, we don't have control on where they're going at that point. If they're absolutely released from the facility, they're no longer an inmate. They have their liberty, they have their ability to go wherever they would like. And so, but I do understand the concerns of the committee. And we absolutely have no intentions of increasing the number of felons releasing to the Grand Forks County area that currently release there.
But isn't there typically like a parole situation where you still do have some control over it? I mean, typically people don't serve every minute of their jail time. Isn't there usually like a parole or a probation period afterwards, especially with a penitentiary inmate?
There are, yep. So not everyone serves their entire sentence. We do have a number of individuals that do parole from the facility, and they do have approved release plans, which typically would go to either a reentry center or a halfway house, or they would go to approved residence, which the parole officer would go and investigate prior to that approval by that parole board, which is already happening.
Almost done here. So we can move on to the page 8, which is essentially we have negotiated a robust provision for termination of the contract on both sides. There's a number of reasons that either party could terminate the contract if necessary or appropriate. Some of the biggies I think are important to point out is that DOCR could terminate if they lose funding or authority from the legislature. That's a reasonable ask on their behalf, I think. On the flip side, I also want to highlight that the county could terminate the contract if we have changes in our offender population or budget as well. You know, there have been discussions in the past about our rising county population and whether or not we'd have sufficient room. If we look to actually move to terminate the contract at some future date, that obviously would be a decision of the board. But that provision's in there in the event that we do get into that situation. The rest is pretty much boilerplate language. But those are kind of the high spots that I wanted to highlight for your attention. And I certainly can answer any questions the board might have, or I'm sure Mr. Anderson or Sheriff Schneider feel the same too.
I have some questions for Mr. Anderson. Okay, Mr. Anderson, I got questions for you. Does the state still want 72 beds, or they're okay with 60?
We're okay with 60. We can work with that.
Okay. As far as some of the responses mentioned things, I just, to you, a 2.5% yearly escalator, or 5% over 2 years, that's pretty basic inflation. So I don't think that's much to ask for us to ask for $5, 5% over 2 years, because if you're on a 2-year, it said the contract July 1st. So the way I would understand it, the session would be over. They would have allocated the money, and then the money would be released August 1st. So for us trying to ask for 2.5%, I think is more than fair. I also just want to remind that when we went into this, and we're state taxpayers, so obviously it's to our benefit. We want to work with you. We want criminals behind bars. We don't want you letting people out. So I want to be a partner too, but the sheriff mentioned how these facilities are built, and we were definitely given the impression that we were going to be getting, pardon the pun with the toilet talk, low maintenance inmates. We were going to be getting the kind of hard to call them the best inmates. We're trying to get the people who are going to be the least problem. That was kind of the deal, because it's a pod. They're not cells, and so you got to think what 8 or 10 in. I can't remember the number when I turned there. 8 or 10, like almost like a dormitory type thing. And so we were told we were going to get people. I know there's always the oddball. I get it, but we were told we're going to be. So I hope that's taken into consideration, because frankly, that would eliminate much of the discussion of the damage issue if we're getting the people that we were, so to speak, promised. Other than that, I mean, if you're okay with 72, like I said, I want to help the state everything I possibly can, because it helps us too. So I think those things are minor, the escalator and the damage, which said if we change the inmates, make sure we get the right ones, that should be eliminated. But I do believe the release plan is pretty important. So even if you had to transport them back to Bismarck and let them go out of there, because the citizens are all on board what we're doing. Well, the majority of people I've talked to are all on board what we're doing. It was abundantly clear they did not want a bunch of inmates that are not from Grand Forks Release Center, because we represent the county. Now we're stepping aside from our state as a citizen. We're stepping as county commissioners, and they've made it very clear to us that we don't want our inmate population on the outside increased. So I think that to me is the most important thing. If you're good with 60 beds, I think these are all minor, and I'm ready to take care of that. Let's get this thing signed, and it's good for both of us. I appreciate we kept you late, put in for overtime. I appreciate you staying and listening to our. We just want to kind of let you know to mesh this out. We want to get this resolved on both sides and make it clear to. I think it was. Is it Mr. Swanton? Is that Colby? Is that
Colby Brown?
Whoever it is, I can't keep track of my names. We appreciate you guys. We want to work with you, and we thank you for your time. And I apologize for keeping you so late tonight, but thanks.
Yep. Thank you guys. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Just on the damage clause too, I do just to speak, I guess, maybe a little bit more for a better understanding. If the residents that are there know that a ticket back to the prison system would be to damage the facility, we'd be guaranteed to have a lot more damage in the facility. So it's more than damage. It's part of managing those individuals. And once they know a way of getting out, they will be able to do that. And so it goes back to the behavior too. So just more of an understanding of that piece of it and the concern with it.
If we set it up to where the state paid and you got the reimbursement, what's the difference between that and if we paid and we got the reimbursement? Is it the same thing? It's just you pay first versus us paying first? Not trying to put you on line to sign the deal here, but it's the same thing. And we tell them that you're going to pay, but they're going to pay you versus they're going to pay us.
Sure. Your position's understood.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments before we put this to bed for this one, to keep carrying forward for us? You guys are just doing a good job.
Yeah, we're 90% plus there.
We do, I concur with everything that you just, so, all right,
Thanks again, Mr. For being here. Appreciate it.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
I still have, I'm hoping if my,
Yeah, your voice goes in.
I've been told my voice carries. So thanks, and thanks Ms. Lomstead for taking that one. Okay, Madam Chair, I will be as brief as possible. Sheriff's Office building purchase, I did visit with Mr. Hubner. He is open to the idea if the county decided to purchase the Sheriff's Office early. However, obviously the $5 million option price would be into play, plus remaining payments, plus any prepayment penalties on his financing, and whatever we owe on the maintenance schedule. So I put a few numbers together. I'm not comfortable airing out those numbers to the commission right now. Once Ms. Morstead has a chance to catch her breath, I'd like her to validate the numbers. But bottom line, he's agreeable to do it. We would just have to pay the guaranteed option price, remaining lease payments, and some other incidentals. So we can come back at another time, but wanted to give you an update that there's a path forward. Okay. Next item, Youth Assessment Center Administrator reclassification. So I met with Ms. Spain shortly after the commission reclassified my job description. One of the items was she asked that we take a look at her job description because it had been 3 years since we took on the shelter care and the attendant care program. You know, my thought is if a department head thinks their job is substantially changed, let's chat. We chatted. We also met with Ms. Thiel. We went through the process. We heard from Ms. Spain how the job has changed, and most importantly, it's the services, but it's also the independence of action. It's the implications if Ms. Spain essentially makes a bad decision, what comes down on the county, the discretion she has to turn some away, accept some, the level of work. And at the end of the day, what really drove this is Ms. Spain, she might report to the county administrator, but that's her facility. So at the end of the day, I'm not telling Ms. Spain how to run the act. She's doing that within policy, whether it's federal, state, county. So there's a lot of implications to her decision making. Ms. Thiel went through the process independently. And so you do need to approve it, which is what I'm asking the commission to do today. The rescoring of the YAC administrator moves from a grade 19 to a grade 21. I did ask Ms. Morstead to include that in the FY26 budget. However, the commission does need to approve the reclassification, so I'd be requesting that now.
I got a question. Okay, what is a 21.5? What is that pay?
$117,547. She's at $114,317. This would be effective 2026.
She's at 114 now.
Yes, sir.
I just had a question to Steele about the process. I know I've gone through this with me pretty extensively, but it was a while ago. So that all of the training experience level work, these types of things, and then we have a point bracket and then your assigned value. What do you do to get that number, the assigned value that you write down on this piece of paper?
I don't make it up.
I didn't think you did, but I wanted to know.
So Chair Hagan and Commissioners, this is called the Class Evaluation System Manual. This is the process that was used even prior to my joining the county.
Mm-hmm.
And they do a systems analysis and factor evaluation. There's a different name, but the exact same process is used by the city to grade their position. So you have to go through, and both I've gone through the training with the vendor when I first got here, so it talks about characteristics of work, talks about the skill levels. They state exactly how you come up with a number. So I'll just use training and ability. So in this training and ability, a bachelor's degree gets you 80 points. So that's how you go through all the different sections. And it does take a lot into consideration, as Mr. Ford said, independence of action. Are they the decision maker? Are they the person developing the policy? In this case, this position, and I don't take the people. So it doesn't matter if we're looking at the job, if we had to hire somebody off the street. So just because the person in the job right now may have more experience than what's required, they don't get more points. Just so everybody knows. So I always say, I grade a position, I don't grade a person. This position, we didn't know a lot about it 3 years ago. We didn't know what the act was really going to be. We didn't know what kind of impact it would have on our community, what kind of autonomy this position would have, working with the state to develop the processes, the policies, the procedures. And another piece is having the ability to terminate employees, determine that they want to terminate employees.
No, that makes sense. I just wanted to make sure I
Yep.
was more clear on this. Between this number and this number and how you get there. So, very good. Okay. Do you need a motion to approve
Yes,
this?
ma'am.
Okay. Any,
I would move approval of the reclassification of the YAC administrator.
Second.
the first and second, any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you. Next item, Grand Forks Public Health IT upgrades. This one, poor Evelyn has been getting tabled recently a lot. This has to do with, once the county agreed with the city that public health could stay in here without paying a lease. Public health needed to make some upgrades to make sure that they're on their own fiber, they're on their own internet, they're on their own phone lines. This was a project that the commission was fine with proceeding. It actually benefited the county as well, as we were able to upgrade some of our fiber, which was on Ms. Halverson's capital improvement plan. Right now, I'm requesting $14,500 from capital improvements, as we have to, per fire code and fire marshal, we have to remove the old cabling because it's a fire hazard.
Approval. Second.
Okay, first and second, any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Next one, the indefinite delivery, indefinite quality, or as I like to call IDIQ. This is rather simple. This, I'll be asking for approval by the board and chair's signature on this. The main difference, I want to make sure I have the numbers right. So the ceiling for Project Alter has been raised, or the program funding has been raised from 18.25 million to 121.9 million. So that's the ceiling. That does not mean we'll get all 120 million. It just means there's that much more funding and potential work. And so OUSD and Washington Headquarters Service need to have the commission approve and chair signature, because we're accepting the higher budget ceiling.
Approval.
Second. All right, first and second, any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
All right, the next one, my final item, Madam Chair, the Tyler Technology conversion. So working with Ms. Morstead, working with Ms. Thiel. As you all know, I won't rehash Ms. Thiel's presentation from a couple meetings ago. I'm recommending that we move forward with upgrading our current Tyler technology system. As we know, what this current is sunsetting, we need to upgrade it anyways. So upgraded to the cloud, adding a timekeeping and HR component, which is what the commission wants. This is gonna be, after many discussions, the most cost-effective way to do it. Putting it out for an RFP is gonna take a lot more money. We'd have to implement a new system, which would be sometime next year around the time of elections, open enrollment and budgeting. But with the work that the Association of Counties has done with pilot technology and the fact that almost every other county is on this system, I recommend we just move forward in upgrading it and adding the timekeeping component. The annual costs are going to increase, of course, from $57,798 to $131,679 each year. With that said, I recommend the commission move forward immediately with it, with a budget not to exceed $165,000. It would have to come from cash carry. That's staff's recommendation. This will definitely take care of the risk mitigation. It will also take care of some efficiencies for the payroll officer. There's things like you can punch in on your phone. There's all that good stuff. So that'd be my recommendation.
So it's gonna make less work for him long term, right?
It should make it more efficient, sir.
Okay. And then my other question is, I want to keep following up, is we're gonna get this paid for stuff fixed as part of this?
Yes.
Okay, tell that.
Bringing that up.
That's yes, that's what I want to hear.
Yes.
All right, I'm good. Thank you. I'll move approval.
Second.
First and second, any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Lon.
No knows.
The first item I have is in relation to the opioid litigation. Two pretty significant settlements for your consideration, and I'll address each in turn. The first settlement pertains to a number of companies: Alvogen, Amneal, Apotex, Hikama, Indivior, Mylan, Sun, and Zydus. Probably mispronounced some of those. Sorry. They're all together in one settlement for approximate payout nationwide to states and political subdivisions of $720 million participating states and subdivisions. So for this settlement, North Dakota, the state of North Dakota has already opted in, which is required for us to opt in. The actual payout that we specifically as Grand Forks County would receive depends on how many states and political subdivisions opt in. So the more that opt in, the better the payout is for everybody. So we can't say right now what that means for us. In addition to the payout, the settlements also include injunctive relief, as the other settlements that you previously have reviewed have had as well, pertaining to opioid marketing, sale, distribution, and practices. And it also requires the manufacturers to implement safeguards to prevent diversion of prescription opioids. And so, like I said, the state of North Dakota has reviewed this. They have chosen to opt in. Our counsel representing Grand Forks County in this litigation has also reviewed this settlement, and they recommend that we accept this settlement and opt in as well. So if that's agreeable to the board, I would ask for a motion to opt into this settlement and also the chair's signature on any necessary paperwork.
So move. Second.
First and second, any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
The second one I have pertaining to the opioid litigation is really the biggie. It pertains to Purdue Pharma and a number of its affiliates, as well as the Sackler family. So they're really the heavy hitters on this opioid litigation matter. Essentially, the biggest role that they played is they were the manufacturer of the opioid painkiller And so this settlement, it would contemplate that the Sacklers would pay an aggregate of 6.5 billion in 16 payments over 15 years, including 1.5 billion on the settlement's effective date, which would likely be 2026. These amounts would be in addition to the amounts available from the Purdue estate, which would be expected to be around $900 million as well, and additional payments that could be in the future. These settlements also contain injunctive relief governing opioid dispensing practices and requires the successor in interest at Purdue Pharma to implement safeguards to prevent diversion of prescription opioids. And also, the settlement would restrict certain Sacklers from directly or indirectly engaging in the manufacture or sale of opioids in the future as well. And this one, like the last one, also we can't anticipate exactly what the funds would be that would flow to Grand Forks County, because it's all dependent on the number of states and political subdivisions that opt in to the settlement. Like the last one, it's my understanding that the state of North Dakota has chosen to opt in, which then opens the door for Grand Forks County to choose to do the same. So our counsel for the opioid litigation has reviewed this settlement as well and is recommending that we opt in as well. So if the board agrees, I would ask for a motion to opt into this settlement and authorize the chair's signature on any necessary.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
Move to allow her to fill the.
What do you think?
I kind of would. Normally I wouldn't, but I appreciate the speed to allow us to fill, but it also comes with kind of a silver lining of good news. The reason we have the opening is that one of our attorneys, Assistant State Attorney Andrew Iyer, was selected by Governor Armstrong to fulfill a judicial vacancy for our judicial district. So it's really big news for him and his family, and so we're certainly sad to see him leave Grand Forks County, but if we have to lose somebody, that's about the best way to lose someone, for them to move to a district court judge position. So I appreciate the quick motion, but I also wanted to share that happy thing.
Congratulations.
I know you don't have it on here.
Oh,
I
check.
know I don't make it any longer.
We need to vote on the motion.
Oh, sorry, we didn't even vote. It was really quick. Do we have a second?
Yeah.
Okay, first and second, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
Then the last item I had is, as Chair Hagan mentioned, our office, or Grand Forks County, has been selected by the governor's office and the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation to lead a prosecution-led diversion program here in Grand Forks County. This is kind of hot off the press. We just learned of this yesterday. So the specifics of how this will shape up and what it'll look like is kind of yet to be determined. But one thing that when we were exploring this option, we reached out to our criminal justice partner, Sheriff Schneider, the chief of the GFPD, our presiding judge, the public defender's office, all of our kind of criminal justice partners, and everyone was on board and moving forward with this option. And essentially is what it would provide is kind of an extra tool in our toolbox to utilize for certain types of cases, likely low level offenders that are maybe struggling with addiction or mental health issues. And it will allow us to have the option to divert those folks from the criminal justice system and connect them with some type of treatment or resources that address the issues they're dealing with and the cause of them being involved in the criminal justice system. So it's a pilot program that's been championed by the governor's office and the Department of Correction. And we're really honored and happy that they selected Grand Forks County to be one of their pilot sites. We're pretty hopeful that it could be a really good thing for some of the cases that come across our desks and the folks in our jurisdiction. But that's kind of the purpose of it, is to pilot it and see if it's working. One thing that comes with this that we don't know the specifics on yet is that there is a legislative appropriation. And so we're really excited about the fact that more state resources are going to be coming to our county to accompany this program. Exactly the dollar amount, we don't yet know. But I envision that this would be no cost to the county. I don't anticipate utilizing any county dollars or the need to utilize any county dollars to serve this program. And the funds that would be coming to the county would probably be funneled to treatment providers or tracking services for these types of cases. So that's kind of a big win, is that we get state resources coming to our community and so at little to no expense to Grand Forks County. One thing I do want to be clear on with regard to this is that we anticipate that this would serve a very small segment of the cases that come across our desk and the folks that are incarcerated at the correctional center. So I don't want to mislead you to think that this is going to be a game changer for our population issue at the jail or anything like that. I think this would be a very niche type of case or type of individual that can be served through this program. So it's certainly a good thing and moves the needle a little bit, but it's not going to solve all our population. We're honored that the state selected us, and we'll kind of keep you posted.
Right, committee reports.
They're interviewing the MPO candidate. There's two left, coming down to two, so probably the next meeting I should know who one from Bismarck, one from North Carolina. He gets to pick, he's in for rude awakening, but they're interviewing my probably the next meeting. I assume we're gonna be voting, but so I'll let you know that. And then just one follow up with Mr. West, who congratulations on staying here. Could you send an email out to Ms. Morstead, Mr. Ford, and the commissioners on the Drain 4 issue, if it passed? As soon as you find that out, and you know,
Sure.
just so we know, so Ms. Morstead, Mr. Ford, and ourselves, that we know that money's been committed. Once you find that out.
Yep. Sounds good. I should know tomorrow.
Right.
So
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
The library, obviously you've heard in the press that there was a bed bug issue. And that was apparent last Friday, and already they eradicated the issue by Sunday, so it was taken care of very quickly. And the librarian is now bug free, bed bug free. Other than that, that's all I have to report.
Had the mayor's base enhancement committee meeting this morning at 8 o'clock. And tomorrow morning is the brick meeting. Yeah, that's all I got.
I was out at the media day with Project Ultra with Hogan and Colonel Rosales and the mayor to get some comments. It was a great day and great announcement for $4 allocated in that area. But other than that, I don't have anything else. You have to say something?
And I'm required to notify you of a direct substantial conflict of interest voting on this item before the board due to my financial interest with the entity. So I would request a motion to recuse me from this vote.
So move.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passed unanimously with Mr. Rosted. That was for the
invoice.
I don't know where I put it. Anyway, can we get a motion for that?
I'll move. Okay.
Great. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. Mr. Rosted refused. You can peruse the correspondence. We have gotten to the end of the agenda.
Move adjourned.
All those in favor of the
Wait,
motion? Oh,
I tell you, I just have a question though, this, I just want to make sure now this medical waste facility. I just want to make sure it's clear that Northwood P and Z, if I read correctly, approved it. So I mean, I just want to make sure, that's on there, in case you get phone calls that we are the medical waste facility in the county of Grand Forks.
Yeah.
So I just want to, it's by Northwood and Northwood has
Right.
signed off on it.
Right.
So I just wanted to make sure that's clear in case
Everyone.
anyone's
is on the same
confused.
page.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's.
Okay, thank you.
If you're adjourned now, right? All those in favor, right?
Aye.
All right, sounds good.